My microphone was not on. Hello, we are back. Like the 17th century composer from Austria. I don't know if he was Austrian or born in the 17th century, and I know nothing about classical music, but that really says probably more about you than it does me when we think about it. Hang on, hold up, wait. Oh, there we go. That's a Guinness. A bit of asthma for you. Not the lung condition. The sensory experience genre of video made popular on YouTube around the same time as the topic of our video, which is Ember.js. What a segue. Let's just open this up. So, if you joined me yesterday, and let's be frank, why would you have done? I was learning a bit of Ember.js, which is, hang on, give me a second. Oh, it's a tasty Guinness. Yeah, we were doing that thing, and so far I've not learned very much. And to give you a recap of why I'm doing any of this, is I have a project I've been working on, which is a Rails application, and over the last while I've become a big fan of Rails. I've also become a big fan of its opinionated nature. If you hear a noise in the background, by the way, it's a 3D printer going off. I'm making myself a thing. If you're lucky, later on I might show you. Wow! How would you do that? Through the magic of having a camera in the printer. Anyway, so, what was I saying? Yeah, Rails. I like Rails. Rails is good. And the problem with it is the front end. Oh, excuse me. I need to wash down that thought with some Guinness. The problem with the Rails is the front end stack is kind of bad. If you're doing a CRUD application without a great deal of interactivity, it's great, to be honest. It's fantastic. You just throw some stuff on the page and it all just kind of works and it's great. But if you want to go and be a little bit more SPA adjacent, SPA like, your default option is Hotwire. And Hotwire is slightly poo. It's kind of fine for a bit, and then if you want to go a bit deeper, it's very not fine. And I was very diligent in trying to make sure I knew it wasn't poo for a while before really committing with both feet. And spending some time with it, I have gone off it entirely. So I need a new front end, or to move my front end away from what would be my default choice would be Vue.js. And I've used Vue a lot in the past, but I've not done it in honestly a couple of years at this point. So I'd have to sort of relearn a bunch of stuff. I've only done a little bit of the composition API stuff. I have to learn a lot of stuff to get back up to speed with Vue. I was like, hey, what a good opportunity to look at what else is out there. I don't like React. I don't really like Svelte. So it leaves my options quite limited. And I was like, hey, is there something with a degree of opinionation which has the same vibes as Rails? And the thing that meets that is Ember. And if you don't know what Ember is, and why would you? Let me get my little screen over here. Whap, like that, right? Do another one then. Go back to the home page. It's this guy. And the thing with Ember is it's not very popular, and I don't mind. That doesn't really bother me. Because there's a lot of churn and flavor of the month type stuff going on inside JavaScript, and has been for about a decade now, and I think it's about ready to come to an end, especially with like the whole thing of AI, I guess. Not really AI, but more like there's some productivity gains to be had by using AI. And in opinionated systems it works better if you're into that kind of thing. I'm not a huge AI person. I don't hate it as much as I did. If it's in the hands of you and you're being sensible and not like quote unquote vibe coding, it's actually pretty useful. It can solve some problems for you, like the small crappy problems or boilerplate stuff. It's really good at that. It's really good at things like writing tests. And in those cases, I actually don't really have that much of a problem with it. Other aspects of the industry have massive problems in, but the context of coding, actually, I'm not that upset. Because it can solve a lot of these problems quite quickly, and if it's a net benefit to your productivity, make use of it. And by the same token, if you're in a world where you're writing a front-end React app and you buy into the spin your own shit every single time methodology, which Next.js is really popular for a reason, right? People want some more structure, but React tends to end up quite messy. And Svelte, I just kind of don't like SvelteKit, to be honest, and they're defaulting to kind of assuming you're using SvelteKit and SSR. I think SSR in JavaScript is kind of dumb. There's perfectly good servers have been doing it for decades with way more mature tooling, and just for the virtue of writing JavaScript, is not really a especially nice language to have the excuse to keep it all in one big new monolith, but that monolith is messier and less opinionated. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you're going to use something like Laravel, Rails, Flask, Django, those sort of things, I get it. You have structure. You still don't have that with modern day JS stuff, but you do with Ember. And it's used by a lot of big, boring companies. Netflix, I know, are kind of phasing it out. It's used a lot of LinkedIn, but in places I think want to phase it out. Apple use it heavily. CrowdStrike had no idea. Intercom are very heavily invested in it. Heroku, who cares about Heroku? But there's a load of big companies on big, long-lived projects where you can onboard people and have them up to speed quickly. You can revisit a code base and know what's going on really quickly. There's no bike shedding or wheel reinvention. I hate wheel reinvention, although I've been guilty of it on a lot of occasions. So that is my motivation from looking at Ember, although it's not a fancy framework or framework du jour. The other things, because code is code at the end of the day, right? And if something works, if you can make it working relatively well, relatively quickly, the problems can be solved. And long-term maintainability is a big deal, and long-term, there's things I've written 5 years ago, gone back to and gone, what is this? This is absolute nonsense, So that's my motivation for giving it a go. I'm not saying I'm going to like it. I'm not saying I like it so far. I'm not saying I'm going to use it. I'm just sort of kicking the tires. I ain't bought anything. I'm just looking around the shop, seeing what's on the shelves, being like, oh, what's this? Jesus Christ, £20 for that? I swear in 2019 that was a £5. What the fuck? What is going on? Why is it about COVID that meant that inflation just... Anyway, that point aside, let's carry on with where we're at. So, that's my motivation for doing all of this. And it only took me 7 minutes to actually really start the video. And let me give me a second, we have some more Guinness. I have currently 0 viewers, as is my right. And let's do this. So, I got as far as... I got a bit further than this yesterday, but I skipped over a section. I was getting bored. I got as far as reusable components. So let's go into our little guy. I think it was what was it? It was just npm start, wasn't it? Npm start. There we go. That should be doing its thing. Is that doing it? It's building. That's quite slow. That's weirdly... I've been spoilt by Vite. That took a while. That's not a strong start. I know. So I've done a little bit more reading last night, and I've read that they've got. The 3D printer's been quite annoying. How long's got left? Should we do a check-in? We've got 10 minutes of this. Can you tell what it is? We can tell what it is. Don't read that. Then you win something. I don't know what you win. Get yourself something from the fridge. If you don't have a fridge, get yourself something from the cupboard. Don't have a cupboard? Get yourself something from the floor. A twig. Twigs are ace. Haven't got any twigs. You must live in a city. I'm sorry. Pick up some gum. Help out. Put it in a bin. Help the environment. Do your bit. We all inherit this earth from Mother Nature. We have to take care of it. I mean, what the fuck am I going on about? Okay, alright. So, what was I talking about? Yeah, that was a slow warm-up. That was really goddamn slow. I know they've got an initiative coming where they've got a thing called Embroider, where I think and it's taking a while. It's a very long-lived project, though, right? And apparently it's very stable. Who knows? But, anyway, apparently they're adopting Vite. And I think you can use it now. In fact, we'll check this out in a minute. I'll rebuild this in a minute, and I'll do that Embroider thing. But yeah, apparently they're moving all of this to Vite, and I've been absolutely spoiled by Vite over the years, because Vite is just the first time I've ever been happy with one of these build systems since Gulp. I used to really like Gulp. Gulp was pretty good. Grunt was pretty good, right? Back when it was simple, back when they were dumb, and you just smushed some stuff together. I kind of like that, right? And then Grunt was just like a list of linear tasks that you'd run, and it wasn't that. But far from perfect, but it was simple, It wasn't it was like a file and a bunch of packages. It wasn't too bad. And then you had Gulp, which could pipe things into each other. It wasn't very long lived. And then was it one for Webpack? Something for Webpack. Icepack, was it, or something? I don't know. Then Webpack, and then everyone hates Webpack, and then eventually lots of pain. Rollup became a thing, and then lots of pain, and now we have Vite, and Vite's basically perfect. And I'll kill anyone who says otherwise. because you're wrong. And you should feel bad and just enjoy the things you like. You want to do something else, I ain't your boss. Let's go and actually do something. Right, so, anyway, that was a slow build. So we'll get back to where we are. So interactive components. In this chapter, so this is where we're up to, we've done introduction, orientation, building pages. In fact, actually, let's look at what we've got running. What is it on again? It's on 4200. Let's just go and visit that there page. Go to the home page. There we go. Here's what we've got. We've got a point that we've got view smaller, view larger. There's no links between pages, whatever, and then we can view larger. And I've added some shit to here, but I'll get rid of that. So we're up to there. So now it says in this chapter you'll add interactivity to the page. And I use a click. Oh no, we've done that. We've done that. So reusable components, I guess. At some point, I've written the word stuff into one of these, and where have I done it? Let's have a look. So rental HBS. Let's just do stuff, and then I'll just put the word stuff in here somewhere. There's that stuff. Where did I write stuff down? Just says stuff there. What component did I put that in? Yeah, it's inside. It's inside rental. Where the hell? Rental image. I put the word stuff in the alt tag because, of course. Huh. Wait. Yeah. What? That's weird. Okay, well, if we come across it, we'll remove it. Let me just get Streamlabs back up. So, yeah, so we have actually done that section. So we're going to go back to this one. Let's close down our inspector. The last missing feature of a rental component is a map to show the location of the rental, which is what we're going to work on next. My God. While adding the map, you will learn about managing application level configurations, parameterizing the component with arguments, accessing component arguments, interpolating values and templates, overriding HTML attributes in this. This is the thing they've got, which is kind of cute, where you can just like, where was it? I haven't got anything open. Rental image, and then, is it in here? No, image, HBS, there we go. They've got this thing here where you can be like ... attributes, and it just passes through any HTML attributes into whatever it's attached to. It's cute. It's cute. I'm not sure if I'd use it. Let me just close this down. Hang on. Whoop. Right. Refactoring with getters and auto track, getting JavaScript values and the text. We're not going to do that. One thing on this stream is we are not writing any tests because no one's going to watch that, and also no one's watching this anyway. So you know, proof's in the point. If I was writing tests, I'd have even fewer viewers. I would have negative viewers right now. So think about that. So. Application level configuration. We use the Mapbox API to generate from our rental properties. You can sign for free and without a credit card. We'll do that. Is that still true? Get started for free. And I've pre-prepared, shouldn't have closed that window. I've pre-prepared a temporary, I'm going to cut my, so my name is, that. And then my email is that. My username is Cleft Hammock 767, and then that's my password. There we go. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Wait, I'll use a sensible. There we go. I'm gonna remember any of this. Oh, you're just not allowed? Oh, you fucking piece of shit. Right. That was a bit of an extreme reaction, I'm sorry. No, don't save that, fuck off. Right. Well, I've run into a little bit of a roadblock here. It wants me to use a real email address. I am not signing up for this with a real email address. That can absolutely shut up. So you find a new, let's just do disposable email address. I'm going to sign up for this off screen, so just talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Let's do a different company. Temp Mailo. Give that a little copy, and then we'll just do, was it map box? There we go. Oh, and my name is a name, stuff, that, and then it's called fully hand chirps, and then let's just do a real password. There we go. Do one of them. You agree? Aha! Create account. Okay, and then let's go in here. Refresh. Do we have? Oh. Well, shit. Well, that's not going to happen. Basically, we're gonna do the same thing. I mean, how do we do this section without? I could find a different API, I guess, but can't be bothered. Let's just. Yeah, no, it is now. Hello. What was I showing before? Yeah. So. Okay, so how I'm going to do this. So let's have a little look. Let's have a little think. Let's have a little think about this. So what do they want me to do? They're saying Mapbox API. I don't have that. It won't let me sign up. I'm using a real email address. So static map images API. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, fine. Let's see, is there? There's not going to be, is there? Shut up, Mapbox. We might have to skip this and now come back to it. I think it's basically, I had a look at this yesterday, and it was like, yeah, joint component class. Yeah, so I was going to, and then, yeah, it's just pretty straightforward stuff, I think. The thing that I was interested in from yesterday actually was, so we've got test because they want you to write tests, and then we've got a map. So I don't, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to skip this for now. Annoying. I'll do this offline. Working with data. I think that hopefully using some fake data here. Have a look. So in this chapter, we move the hard-coded data from a rental component. By the end, your app will finally be displaying real data that came from the server. Imagine that. In this chapter, you'll learn about working with root files, returning local data from the model hook, accessing root models from templates, mocking server data with static JSON files, fetching remote data, blah, blah, adapting server data, loops, and local variables with each. Fun. So far I've been hard-coding everything to a rental component, but that's not very sustainable. Of course it's not. Since eventually, blah, 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 blah. We want to start working towards a place where we can eventually fetch data from the server and then render requested data, words. In Ember, root files are the place to do that. Okay, this is interesting. We haven't needed them yet because all of our routes are essentially just rendering static pages up until this point. Very true. We are about to change that. Let's start by creating a root file for the index root. We will create a new file at approotindex.js with the following content. So we'll do that. Approotindex.js. So we'll do one of them. Okay. Okay. And then was it app roots index.js. Okay. There's a lot happening here we haven't seen before, so let's walk through this. What's it saying? First, we're importing the root class into the file. The class uses a starting point for adding functionality to a root, such as loading data. Then we're extending the root class into our own index root, which we also export so the rest of the application can use it. So what are we doing? Yep, so we've got default class index root extends root. There we go. So we've created this. It's an async. Alright. So far, so good. What's happening inside the root class? We implemented an async method called model. This method, also known as the model hook. Okay. The model hook is responsible for fetching and preparing any data that you need for your route. Ember will automatically call this hook when entering a route, so you can have an opportunity to run your own code and get the data you need. Alright. It's a model, it's MVC. Okay. Users will fetch data from a server. Since fetching data is usually asynchronous, an asynchronous operation, the model hook is marked as async. Using a wait keyword to wait for the data fetching operation to finish. We will see what that does. It's just straight up, isn't it? Just straight up async. We'll get on that bit later on. At the moment, just showing some the same hard-coded model data, extracting with the rental component, but adding JavaScript object format. Okay. So what we've done is we've created a new little guy, and then we've returned title owner words. I'm going to get with that location thing because I'm not. No, I mean I don't have to use it. And right. So okay. So if there's a matching file, it's going to just automatically look for a root file of the same name, presumably, right? So accessing root models and templates. So now prepared some model data for our root. Let's use it in our template and root templates. It's very Railsy. We can access the model from the root with a little decorator. In our case, we contain a plain old JavaScript object returned from our model hook. So this is working. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to index.hbs, and then wait, hang on, where are we doing this? Okay, index. Okay, where is that actually? All right. Oh, it doesn't work. Lame. Let's minimize that. Hang on. Hold up. Okie dokie. Let's go to here. Okay, so we're just going to do, what is it? H1, and then it was baba at what was it again? Model. Something like that. And then H1. Cool. Okay, let's just see if that works. So go out to Grand Old Mansion. There we go. Don't like that though. At model. It's a bit. Yeah. Hopefully it's going to show me a nicer way to do that. Let me guess it's explicit. There we go, Grand Old Mansion. Awesome. Okay. Now we did that, we have a model to use at our disposal. Well, let's remove some of the hard coding that we did earlier. Instead of explicitly hard coding rental information of our rental component, let's pass the model object into our component instead. Let's try it out. Okay, so in rental, let's go down to here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is that, and then we're going to go like that, and then like that. Oh dear. There we go. We're going to do like that. Okie dokie, and then this looks the same. Oh wait, no, because it's not using it anymore. Right, let's put this on another screen for a second. So I'm going to go back into our rental guy, so rental HBS, and then underneath source, okay, source, okay, and then I'm going to do source equals at rental, at rental.image. Okay, and then we don't need this, so let's just do that. Okay, and then we're going to details h3. We've got, so let's just do let's just do, what is that? Oh, can't remember that keyboard shortcut. I'm not good at Helix. I should be, but I'm not. So, alright. So, what we're going to do is, this is, so where I need to check this. Rental dot title. Let's just do this quickly. Oh. So where we're looking for, we're in roots index. So okay, index root. Huh? So oh, okay, all right, yeah. So this is where I was getting confused. This is quite Railsy. So what we've got here, right? So here's our thing, right? So we're doing, whatever. This is what we return. There's our little bit of JSON. And then, yeah, what we're doing here is we're doing app model. Presumably that's made magically available, right? So you can just do this little decorate app model thing, and it just arrives. It just turns up. But then inside here, because we are doing at rental equals app model, we're setting like one of the little interior component things as app model, right? So that's also quite Railsy. Okay, bit magic, because yeah, like I think I would, because I would like for this, I honestly I would like to be like, at rental equals blah 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 blah, and just so I know what it is, so it's explicit. This feels a little bit annoying having to have this sort of magically just be here, right? Anyway, so let's go back to here. That's the wrong one. Where was I looking? Oh yeah, I had this on the different screen. There we go. Aren't you glad you're here? No people. All of the no people who are here. Watching me watching me struggle. Let's get that. There we go. So, right, so yes, so what are we doing next? We're doing, actually, let's just do so where were we at? Sorry, so we're doing the image. So yes, so what we're going to do is just going to yank that, and then so Grandel Mansion rental title, we've done that, and then we've got rental. So owner is, and for some reason my span's broken. Oh no, that's fine. So we're going to can I zoom? I can absolutely zoom the screen. There we go. Hello, brother. There we go. So that is what was that? That's rental owner. Cool. And then we've got rental type. So oh, whatever. Let's just do this. At rental. Okay. And then rental type. There we go. And then what else do we have? City. So let's just do this. Oh. And then this is at rental city. Number of bedrooms, and that's rental. That is rental bedrooms, and that's just going to work. Okay, is that everything? That's everything. That was tedious. So what we're going to do, come back over to here, we'll reload, and everything should be broken. Cool. Okay. All right. Huh. What have I read wrong here? Let's have a look. Let's see what I've read wrong. Back to here. Okay, yeah, rental image, we're passing all that in. So yeah, if I go to no, not that. Rental is app model. Yeah, have I saved this? Pretty sure I did. Why wouldn't that be working? Is anything in my... It's not told me anything. Odd. Very odd. Why wouldn't that be working? So yeah, model title, and then what we're doing is passing at rental. So let's double check we've done this right. So let's just go over to here. Index. Okay. Yeah, rental. Oh no. Oh, hang on. At rental. Okay. Oh, okay. Of course. All right. Yeah. That's a me thing. There we go. I forgot. There we go. That's now working. Cool. So let's go into here. Update the test. I'm not updating the test. I'm not doing it. Can't make me. I'm not doing tests on this stream. That's just not a thing. It's not a thing that's happening. We ain't doing it. So, okay, right. So now, okay, I'm not doing that. It's a test. So mocking server data with static JSON files. There we go. So now the things in place. Let's do the fun part. Removing our hard-coded values from the model hook and actually fetch some data from the server. In a production app, the data would come from an API. To avoid setting up the API for this tutorial, we'll put some JSON data into the public folder instead. That way, we can still test some stuff, words. So, download that file. Okay, that's in my downloads. So, what's this called again? Data.zip. Okay. API. So just we're going to move the whole API folder. Okay. Alright, let's do that. So we'll go over to here, just do one of them, and then we'll just do MV. Oh, no, CV. Is it MV? MV, yeah, MV. Downloads API to there, and then it's like super rentals, and then what's it called again? Super rentals. Where did it say to move it to? Super rentals public. Super rentals public. There we go. Okay, and then just public. There we go. There we go. Right. Cool. So now what? So we go into here. You can verify blah blah. Don't care. So, oh, should we? Let's just have a look at this. Let's go into here. Do that. But there it is. Look at that. Wonderful. Right. So we get rid of that. So we're gonna do. Okay, that looks very straightforward. Fine. Okay. So I'm gonna go into, what is it called again? So index, roots index, go to here. So I'm going to grab all of this from here downwards. There we go. That can get in there. And then we're going to just do, boop. And I'm missing a, where's my closing? Where's my closing boy? Wrong one. There we go. Do. Happens to the best of us. And me as well. So yeah, we'll go down to here. And then do that. There we go. And that should work. Anyway, first we're using the browser fetch yet. Pretty straightforward. It's quite vanilla actually. It's more vanilla than I thought it was going to be. A lot of the routing stuff is quite magic, but a lot of the JS so far is just really vanilla. It's all very sort of class and objects and shit, but I like that. I like writing Ruby, so this is familiar. So, as mentioned above, fetching data from the server is usually asynchronous. Fetch API takes into account. This is why fetch and async. The fetch is an async function. There we go. Just like our model hook. Consumer's response, I have to pair it with the await keyword. That's fine. Pretty standard stuff. The fetch API, I mean, it's just like a nice sort of terse way of just writing like a general API return thing. As mentioned above, fetching data from the server is usually async. I just read that. Returns a response object asynchronously. Once we have this object, we can convert the server's response to whatever form we need. In our case, we know it's JSON. It's always JSON. So we can use a JSON method. Yes, all very straightforward. Passing the response. This documentation, some of it moves a little bit too slowly in explaining stuff, but Actually, I think it's kind of also nice if you weren't a JavaScript developer. This would be quite good orientation, I think. If you didn't know much JavaScript, but who doesn't know much JavaScript if you're a developer? If you're like a C++ guy who works on like desktop apps, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, cool. Right. So before we go any further, let's pause for a second. Look at this. Look at the server's data again. See, did a pause. I'm here all night, folks. God. Right, data. There we go. So we've got blah blah blah. And then we've got urban living, we've got rental, and downtown charm. What have we got here? Does that match what we've got? We do have those three things. Lovely. So, the data follows a JSON, which is slightly different from the hard-coded data we were returning from the model hook before. Nice observation. First off, the JSON API format returns an array nest and whatever. Yeah. Not one, just so array rental properties, objects. I'm going to zoom on this as well, so the people at home can read. Oh Christ! I lost my place. Where was I? wait, where are we? We were here. Right. So yeah, JSON API data, whatever. So rental property objects contain an array, so a slightly different data structure. Every data object has a type and ID, which you don't intend to use in our template yet. For now, the only data we really need necessarily is the attributes key. There's one more key difference here, so we did there, which perhaps is only those with very sharp eyes will be able to catch. The data coming from the server is missing the type property, which we previously existed on our hard-coded model object. Wasn't paying enough attention, didn't see that. We're just going to move on. The type of the property can either be standalone or community, depending on the type of rental property which is required by our rental component. In part 2 of this tutorial, we'll learn about more convenient ways to consume data in the JSON API format. I think this is the so I know one of the things that I knew about, sort of semi-knew about, that seemed quite interesting about Ember. It has its own like data library thing, which sort of normalizes data into a really uniform way, and apparently it's quite good. But we'll see. We'll get to part 2 and we'll see how that actually goes. So. Okay, for now we can just fix this data and do all these differences in the format ourselves. We can handle it in our model hook. There we go. So, let's actually read this instead of copying and pasting. We'll do, data, return data. We're going to, cool. Okay, attribute model. Okay, fine. If community categories include attribute category type community else, set it to standalone. That's pretty straightforward stuff. Let's just copy paste that in. Okay, where were we? We were in here. I didn't like this anyway. Let's get rid of that. And then we're going to do one of these. Wait, what have we done here? Let's just do this. If you're sat there thinking, oh, this guy must be really good at who's it? At whatever editor this is. I'm not. I suck at it. But that's how you get better, right? I ain't here to pretend that I know everything. What's the point in that? So there we go. Let's just do that. Did I save this? I think I saved this. I think I saved it. Yeah, I did save it. So let's just go back to here and then back to here, and we'll see what happens. Let's go back to here, and damn, syntax error. Blah, blah, blah. What have we done here? Oh, it's just an extra guy. What have we done? Just undo this. Hang on. Did I copy everything? I've been writing. There we go. I didn't. I've been writing way too much. There's no closing bracket. I've been writing way too much Ruby in recent months because I'm like, oh, brackets. Blah! What even are they? Which is definitely a me problem, I think. So yeah, there we go. Let's give that another go. Boop, boop. Is that a thing where if you do something dumb, it just crashes the whole server? Is that a thing? Okay, npm start. Oh, that's a slow build. Look at that. Damn, we've got no pages here, and it's taken what's that? 2.5 seconds. Is it done? I think it's done. I don't know. Super rentals. About. We broke something. What's in our console? Anything? Can't find variable. Huh? Oh, because I don't have that. Okay, well. Okay. Doesn't that thing end at crap his pants? No, it doesn't. Yeah, 3 seconds for a build. That's fucking awful. For a site that's not doing anything. That's certainly not a feather in its cap. But then, is that the initial... I mean, even the initial build's quite slow. I'm used to virtually everything being done in like a second or two. Well, that's a second or two, I guess. But you know what I'm saying. Right. Can't remember if have I missed something? I've not imported something here, haven't I? So we've got... Yeah, import routing. Let's go up to here. And then we'll just do one of these. No, we'll do one of these, sorry. And then, yeah, so we've got under here, we'll just do one of, is that control? Oh, no, what did I set this to? Control. Oh, what did I set this to? Oh, I've forgotten. Okay, well, whatever. So, okay. So what have we got? We've got... We'll put something on the screen so I have to keep going back and forth. I'll just do this over here. So, what have we got here? So, manure. We don't want a breakpoint there, I can go away. Oh, okay. Very obvious. This is what happens when you are an idiot, I guess. There we go. Good enough. So, there's no images. Oh wait, no, because that won't be, because we need to redo some other shit. Do we get anything back from this? We do not. Something has fucked up. Something has gone wrong. Let's have a look. So, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so after passing JSON data, we expect a nested attributes object, add back the missing type attribute manually, then return it from the model hook. That way the rest of the app will have no idea the difference ever existed. Now we're in business. So, that's not working though, but let's just have a look. So we've got, they've done that and they've done a loop. It's a standard HBS stuff. So we go back to here, index.hbs. I'm going to come up to here. Oops. Go to here. There we go. Oh, I hate when it does that. There we go. There we go. So weird, actually. So, oh yeah, no, it wouldn't work, would it? Because it wasn't in a loop before. That's why it wouldn't go through. Ah, okay, right. So that's working again. So, because I do know handlebars. I've used handlebars plenty, so I'm not using it a while though. I used it a little bit end of last year, very early this year. But I bounce between a bunch of stuff, so if I've used something for a week, I've completely forgotten it, basically. That's how my mind works. So yeah, pretty straightforward. So, and yeah, I do like handlebars. So yeah, each model has rental. I don't like this app model. I mean, I guess it's pretty explicit, right? Like, what's going on here? You're saying, well, yeah, the model, yeah. I don't love it. I mean, what are you going to do, right? They haven't got names, so... Right. So... Inside the block, we've accessed the item to the current iteration with the rental variable, but why rental? Well, because we named it that. Did we? Oh yeah, we did, of course, because we've done this. So yeah, if we did, like... I don't know. Well, yeah, so that's just sort of like... Oh, what's happened there? That's weird. That's an odd little... You odd little duck. Let's do a little space there just to make that less creepy. Yeah, we've just done some little pipes, and if we just called this like... I don't know. Yeah, we just called this like... what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Yeah, I don't know. It was, of course, like... Dave. We're going to go with that. We're going to go with Dave. We can call someone like... Yeah, I know. There we go. I've got an LSP set up for this now. It's actually pretty straightforward. So, and that's going to carry on working. Cool. How fast was that rebuild out of interest? Because this is my concern, right? So if we stop this, this is what we've got, right? So if we just do npm start, right? So we have nothing. This is all we've got. We've got basically like a couple of static pages, and this is all we're doing. This is all we're doing. And it takes 3 seconds. Is it finished? I think it's finished. That's slow. That feels slow. For something this small, it feels very archaically slow, I would say. Right. Okay, so this is all really straightforward still. So, yeah, it's saying your test will pass. I haven't written any tests, so I'm just going to take their word for it. Congratulations. We finished the first part of the tutorial. Let's pat ourselves on the back. Slap, slap. And let's see what we've printed. For the no people who were here earlier. Start the camera. Come on. Oh, you can't even see it. Well, if you could see it, it'd be very impressive. So, chapter 1. Oh, there's a chapter... Oh, no. Okay, recap. So, congratulations. You finished the first part of the tutorial. It was quite a journey. It really was. To recap, here's what you learned. We've installed Ember CLI. We've created a new Ember app with the Ember CLI. We started and stopped the development server. We did do that several times. Edited files and live reload. What a concept. How original. Work with HTML, CSS and assets in an Ember app. We did that. Defining routes. That was very straightforward. Let's just comment on how these meet modern expectations, right? From something which is quite kind of old, right? That was fine. That wasn't fine, actually. I had to run as a root, but I'm not sure what's the problem with that or problem with my machine. I'm running the beta of macOS, whatever, so it could be stupid. Creating new, that was fine. It's a nice CLI, it seems like. Development server, we know how to do that. That's very straightforward. Live reload is obviously a thing. Editing files, never done that before. That's a first to me. I've never edited any kind of file. I didn't think I liked it. I don't think I'm going to do it again. Working with HTML, CSS, I mean, that's just straightforward. Source stuff in source, that shit in public. Okay, right, so here's the real meat and potatoes. So yeah, defining routes is very, very straightforward, it seems so far. We've only touched the surface of routing. If the rest of this tutorial got part 2, doesn't go any deeper, I need to look at the routing some more. It was really self-explanatory. Route templates, I don't remember what that was. Customizing URLs, I think if you go to here and just do routes, there we go. Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty much this, right? This route contact, and then you give it a separate path if it needs to be addressed to something else, which is fine. So there's your URL versus your actual page, and this route about, and it expects to have a corresponding page called about. If you're used to Rails, that's very straightforward. Linking page is a link to your component. That's a built-in component. It's just a, it's not a handlebars thing. It's their own spin on components, which seem fine. Passing out attributes to components, that seemed very straightforward. They've got a little at thing, little decorator at thing, which seems fine. They've got a little feature where you can pass through HTML attributes directly to a component, which was kind of cute. I'm not sure that I'd ever use that IRL because it's kind of annoying unless it's a really simple component, or maybe there's some mechanic later on to delegate. So the problem with that was if we've got, so let's go to image, I guess. That one. Yeah, we're using it here, right? So we've got image attributes, and if I've got like, let's say I've done an alt, right? An alt right? No, don't do an alt. Never stop. Never do alt right. Yeah, I've done it down here actually. So if I've got an alt there, then attributes will overwrite alt or any other standard CSS thing I want. But if I've done this twice, and I pass in, and this is like in a conditional, right? So it's like if is large, whatever. The point is, if I had another thing, so if I had like this on, like let's say I had like, I don't know, let's say I've got like a span. I need to get Emmett working with this. I'm such an Emmett head. Yeah, and I was like, I've got a oh yeah, that's not great. Yeah, so I've got a span, and I want to do like, let's go back one. Yeah, and I've got to do like, I don't know, class, and then I do whatever the class is, whatever I've defaulted it to, and I do ... attributes. Oops. Yeah, was it ? Attribute. There we go. Ah, like the LSP seems alright actually. That's one thing I'll give it. So I'm used to, I'm going off track already, but I'm used to Rails, and Rails, Shino, Ruby as well. Shino LSP so good. in part due to how weird the language is. It's a Ruby thing because of the way Ruby's like super dynamic. It's hard to write an LSP for. It's not very deterministic in terms of what it does, which is a real... Ruby's a world of contrasts. But anyway, the LSP here works. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. The attributes thing is cute, but if I pass through, let's say I pass through class twice into this, let's actually do it, right? So if I give this, let's just delete class, right? I'm just going to do this. Where we got, so we go to rental, HBS, and then we've got rental image, and I do, instead of here, right, I'm going to go to here, and then I'm going to do class equals, I haven't got a class for this, but let's say the class is cake. And because I've got that on there, it's going to pass through, where is it? Image. It's going to pass through that class to both here and the span, right? So if I come back into here and then we just go, where is it? So yeah, we've got class of cake, and then under here, where is it? Where did I put the other one on? There's an empty span somewhere. It was under here. Let's just make it. It's under large details. I should have put this in, but anyway, the point is, I already know it's doing it. So that's not the point. Yeah, we've got. Let's just make sure we can see this actually. Dave. Let's just do that. Fuck it. Dave the span. And then there's Dave. Right, so yeah, so Dave's going to have a class of cake as well. So where is he? Where are you? They're there in the button. Oh, it's in the button, that's why I couldn't see it. Yeah, so there we've got the span, and that also has the class of cake. So IRL, I don't think, unless there's some way to sort of say which attribute can receive attribute. But then by the time you've done that and said which one of these receives the attribute thing, you might as well have just not used this. So I'm like, it's really circumstantial. It's nice to have. It's kind of cute. So let's go back to this guy here. Right, yeah, so passing arguments and attributes components, that's very straightforward, perfectly fine. I think my observation from this was when we have things like, where's a good one? Let's go to rental HBS. There we go. Yeah, so we define these on the fly. So at rent, we pass this in, right? But also we don't have anywhere. I'd want to be explicit in my, do you know what I mean? In my knowing this is here, because that's a thing that's handlebars is cool. I like handlebars quite a lot, but that's one thing that trips you up because it's kind of magic. I would like to, and even in Rails, you explicitly state and preset all of the variables expected at the top of a screen. That's a better way to do it, I think. But I think I saw somewhere that it might be bringing that in, so whatever. The chapter on automated testing, I didn't do any testing, nor will I continue to do testing because that's not interesting to watch or interesting to learn at the moment. I'll do that when I do something real. If I do something real with this, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. Extracting markup into components, that's obviously just components. Invoking components, that's just very straightforward, very standard markup. Passing content components, again, very straightforward. Yield is just like if you've used, I think, like slot and other things where you just sort of say, we'll spit out the shit between the braces. Refactoring existing code, that's a weird title. Refactoring code exists. Component test, didn't do that, couldn't be asked. Using the application template and outlets. So one thing I'm interested in, so outlet's different to yield. So if we go into here and we do application, there it is. We've got this outlet thing. Which is kind of similar to the yield, but it's different. So I think it's just for test templates and nesting templates. I might have an experiment a bit and see if I can nest, pipe it through multiple templates, because I quite like doing that, where I've got like, you know, like main app template, and inside there you've got like specific view, you know, and then you've got content. I wonder if you can do that. We'll see. Generating components. So yeah, the CLI can generate components. It can also generate sidecar JS files. It feels like, my observation of this was, it feels like it should generate the JS file by default. So if we go back to the file structure, let's just do this. and I go down to app, and we go into components. Yeah, so it does like this, right? So if I did this one myself, guys.js. But yeah, if we've got, so go into rental, we've got image and image HBS. If I had done a jumbo, like with the little flag, I think it's like create something, CC or something, generate GC, generate class, which would generate like an empty, this guy basically, an empty sort of boilerplate JS file. It would have put it here, and this will get really littered, and it pushed me in the direction of nesting everything and just using namespace in the entire time. I don't know. I like to know where they are. I wouldn't put them. But then also, actually, that being said, either I'd have the default behavior be you generate both unless you don't want JavaScript, because how often are you not going to have JavaScript with a view or a component? It's not often. You might not do, but it's more often than you would, I'd say. So I'd have that be the default and flip it around. But then also, ideally, I would want a combined file for both. And I've heard they are doing this. If it's done already, I don't know. But I would sooner have a single file with both my JavaScript and all my stuff in it. I'm just going for a quick bathroom break. We're back in a minute. And I'm back. So, where were we? I have a cupcake as well. I went to the bathroom, and also I got a cupcake. So, that's what's going on in my world. What's going on in your world, one viewer? If that is your real name. That much, huh? Good to hear. Right, so we were reviewing where we were at with my feedback on part 1 of the Ember guide thing. So the CLI generates components, which just puts things in the right file, but also it can generate a little sidecar.js file. And I feel like the bottom thing, the least I want it to do is by default generate a JS file when you generate a component, because most of the time you're going to need one, and then otherwise you have to. I don't think there's a command to just generate the JS file on its own, so it's kind of annoying. Rather have it or not need it, and then, do you know what I mean? And then the other half would be, in reality, what I'd rather have is the ability just to put the JavaScript inside the same file and not have a sidecar file in the first place, because this is not my fave. Let's do this. No, let's do this. Where are we? App, components. There we go. Yeah, this is not my fave, having this sort of setup going on. It means you've got a lot of files to navigate for kind of no reason. I get having more files. I think a lot of people bemoan that about some sort of batches included web frameworks where they have a lot of files to navigate to. But that's not. If there's a reason for a file to be separate, I get it. If there's not, then I don't. And that does not feel like a good reason to have a separate file for me personally. I'd rather just have my JavaScript in the same file as my component. Keyboard scale. I have a cupcake. I said that already. So, that frosting is off, I think. What was it? I'm going to eat anyway. So, namespacing, pretty straightforward. Forwarding HTML attributes with attributes. Talked about this earlier. This is cute. I think it's kind of broken IRL. I'm not sure if I'd even use it. But it's cute. I would probably not include this in my framework if I was to write one, because it's just kind of pointless. It probably saves you a bit of time if you don't have to write explicit things for the classes and whatever you're going to pass, and a lot of boilerplate. I get that, but circumstantial, not that much work. And also, you're going to nest a component anyway. Then I don't know. Whatever. Determining the appropriate amount of test coverage. In this case, we determined it was 0. But in general, it would probably be between some and enough. Never too much. Never too much. Never too much. Right. So, if you know what that song is, put it in the chat. I'll leave that with you. So, chapter 6, adding behavior to component with classes. That is, I don't know why did you say with classes? Because it's like almost like you're not familiar. Is it a thing with JavaScript where people just aren't familiar? I know it's like in JavaScript, in the JavaScript meta, it's not the oldest thing, but using classes in JavaScript is something people just don't get on with. I really like it. I think it's great. I really like it in JavaScript. I think it's really well done, to be honest. But that's me. Who knows? It makes it feel much more sensible. Rather, a class and a bunch of methods inside, and just a bunch of like random floating functions lying around. That do too much. I like writing shorter functions that do less, having more of them, and piping things out of things. But I like to. Anyway. Right. So. Accessing instance states from templates. What was that again? Let's go back. Let's remind ourselves. Component basics. This is chapter 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, what do we do? Do that. Interactive components. Adding behavior. States. Oh yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. So yeah, this is the state stuff. So yeah, we've got is large equals false, and then we can just do, what was it? Yeah, is large equals false. Pretty straightforward stuff. And then we do tracked. So that's how you do state. You say it's a tracked. It's a tracked property. It's like it's kind of like the dollar sign inside old Svelte, which is gone now, I think. It was fine. It was okay. So far, my take, I think, overall is nothing's massively annoyed me. Nothing's offended me. Some of the convention stuff's quite familiar if you come from Rails. So that's fun. So right, we're up to chapter 6. We've got managing states of track properties. We did that. Again, fine. Conditionals, that's just standard handlebars stuff. I think handlebars. Handlebars. Oh, they've changed the website. Whoa. Yeah, so I found out that Handlebars is written by the same guy who wrote Ember, which is kind of cool, because I've always been a massive fan of Handlebars. I really, really like it. Really like Handlebars. So there's that. Oh, a good cupcake. So. Oh, Christ. Okay, so. Using conditionals, responding to user interaction with actions. So that's this stuff here. It's an image. Yeah, so this is like, I don't understand the action thing. So this is just a method you can do. So this is just flipping. It's just flipping over. Yeah, it's just flipping over a value, right? But like, I don't know why you need to wrap it in this action decorator thing. It just feels like a bit of stylistic. Sort of glitter you don't need, because if I just had like just a method called action, that'd be fine, right? I don't know why you I don't know. Not method called toggle size. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. It's again, it doesn't really offend me. Was there something I legitimately didn't like? I can't remember. There's something I found that I didn't like. Some of the janky image. This, I didn't love this. This I didn't love. So we've got, on click this toggle size, which is not great. But then I think later on it recommended me to do an inline ternary, but inside handlebars, which felt weird. I think that's in the reusable components. So we go back down to here. What does it tell you to do? There's my test, which I definitely wrote. I remember seeing something the other day which I didn't like. And it's like, let's do a refactor, and it made it worse. What was it? Oh, there we go. Yeah, don't love that. Yeah, and I don't love this. I don't really like stuff like this. I'd rather write more code that's more readable than... I mean, this is not the most offensive thing in the world, you know. I've seen worse. JavaScript has worse. JavaScript is way worse. JavaScript can be absolutely fucking illegible if you let it. So that's not the worst thing in the world. But I just don't. I don't think personally I would do this. They suggest you do this to make it like shorter, but I don't know. I don't like this. So like truthy, falsy, nothing. But like if I had a pipe symbol, I'd be less offended. But or comma or something. But it's just kind of weird. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really matter. And I think you'd probably get used to it, you know. But still, you know, still. Anyway, where are we up to? Chapter 7. Chapter 7. Invoking element modifiers. Oh yeah, so actions invoking element modifiers. Where was that? That was in chapter 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not true. It's in here, isn't it? Managing to trick stack. Yeah, so they've gotten the things wrong. Testing user interactions, we definitely wrote tests. Reusable components, it might be in here. No. It must be in here. I can be able to come up with classes, there we go, and then it goes instant states from templates, rhymes, then we've got managing state track properties, we did that. Respond to actions, the action stuff we established was okay. Testing user interactions, we definitely did that, and then let's get our template. What are they referring to here? I can't remember what I was reading before. So chapter 6. Invoking element modifiers? Whatever. It was fine. Right, let's go back. Let's just do element. Spell it right, that'd be useful. Element. Okay. Modif. Let's have a look. Oh, okay. That's what they're saying. Okay, use on modifier to attach this toggle size. Okay. Yeah, so that's fine. So that's just they've phrased that strangely. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, testing interactions. Chapter 7, managing application. We didn't get to do any of this, but I did read through it yesterday, and I had another quick scan today. And that's very straightforward. This I didn't like their refactor with into a getter. That was a bit. Yeah, this. I mean, but for the most part, this was also just fine. The one thing I want to get into is how to do. Where is it? Oh no, here we go. Working root files. That seemed very straightforward. That's just like a little. I wonder if you can share. So yeah, you create a root. So if you go in here, we create a root. So if you go in here, I said that twice. If you go into app, right, and then we go into roots, and yeah, we've got index.js, right? So we've got a router, and then we've got roots. So I wonder if we can share these between stuff. So if I've got a bunch of different, do I have to redo this a bunch of times? If, like, let's say we've got the same endpoint, like, returns information for multiple views, because this is like referring to, so this index root file corresponds to I think magically corresponds to a view, right? So if we do index.hbs, yeah, because we don't say anything here, we just magically have model, and that just finds the model named index. It just finds this, which is very Railsy, very conventional, but also, yeah, if that information needs to be shared between multiple, like, views, multiple templates, and they use the same, like, root information for the most part, would that be annoying? I don't know, we have to learn more. Return look at that for model hook, so we did that. So we just whammed in some fakey shit. Access to root model and template, so we did that. So if we go back to here, yeah, so this is what we ended up with. So we created a fake API endpoint. Just did this. Again, they have their own FMT. I don't have a format for JavaScript. Oh, okay. Anyway, that's why it looks like looks so much like shit. So yeah, that's fine. This was, again, very straightforward. The static JSON file, again, very, very straightforward. Fetching, yep, so that was, again, also straightforward. Adapting server data, that was just like a little, this little bit here. Where is it? There we go. Community characters, blah, blah, blah. There we go. And they just, this return type. It's just some basic JS stuff. I think the one thing I do quite like about it is a lot of it so far is quite vanilla. It's like you've got a little bit of magic that hooks together the various files, which is I'm used to it, and I don't mind it because there's no guesswork about where things are. But it's not a big win, Not worrying how to name things I do quite like, having all the names of stuff being the same, kind of cool, but minor. But yeah, I like how a lot of the JS stuff is very vanilla. It's got those decorate. And I guess, going back to what I was moaning about with that actions thing, I guess if it's all very vanilla, we can just have something to distinguish what fits into their magic system, right? And what that magic, I don't know what that magic entails yet, because the stuff we've done has been so simple. There's been no magic to really see, to be honest. But I guess that's probably why they've done that. But yeah, it's so vanilla JS, and I like writing vanilla JavaScript. I like writing nice, simple, concise JS stuff is good for me. But then we'll see how magical it gets. But that's not bad. It just seems like some nice sugar around some pretty standard stuff. So, where are we? Adapting server data, that's what we did. Loops and yes, that's just a loop. That's just standard handlebars loops. That's fine. And that's a lot. At this point, you're equipped to perform a wide variety of development tasks in Ember. Really, so my overall take of this so far is, to reiterate one more time, is none of it offends me. None of it's blown me away. One of my biggest... the biggest things I've noticed, which actually would bother me quite a lot, is those build times. I've been very much spoiled by Vite, and I know they're getting Vite or have Vite, but like to build a one-page thing is taking 3 seconds. I'm not sure if that's a static, like if that goes up much or if it's fairly, I'll find out as we go on. Yeah, auto import webpack. That takes 2 seconds to import webpack. What's that doing? I don't know. Maybe it's fine. Maybe actually what we're looking at is probably looking at a sitting 3 seconds, sitting 2 seconds, and then we're looking at like 147 milliseconds. It looks like that's Babel doing something with whatever. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. Who knows? Okay. But yeah, I think overall this is kind of a bad tutorial in a way, but a good one in a way. It's a little bit too simple, it's a little bit too slow. The end result's not that interesting. It doesn't do a good job of showcasing what might make this unique. But again, in the context of, I don't know when this was originally written, maybe they've had the same one since 2012, in which case, some of these ideas might have been fresh. We're looking at this in 2025 after, a decade or more of SPAs being a thing. It would have been relatively novel, right? So when this came around, React didn't exist yet, Vue didn't exist, nor did probably Angular, I guess, probably would have existed either, right? What year was Angular? I don't even know. So, but they should really, they should really adapt this for a more modern audience or a different audience that might already know some stuff. I think would be my advice to the Ember people. That being said, the writing style is really nice. It's nice and clear. There's some cute stuff in there. And if the rest of the documentation is written as well as this, then I'm cool with that, basically. So, we're going to do part 2 straight away, because, again, I don't think I learned that much, really, in the previous one. So, we'll do part 2. So we'll do, hooray, you've made it to the second part of the tutorial. In the following section, we'll build the core concepts we learned in the first part of the tutorial. I'm excited. This is what I want to get to. Along the way, we'll add some new features to our Super Rentals app, and by the end of the section, we'll have implemented some search functionality, nice, and we factored a good bit of our code to use some new Ember concepts. Sick. In part 2, we'll cover the following concepts: dynamic segments, done with that as Ember services. Ember data seems interesting. These both seem interesting. Ember data seems especially interesting. From my understanding is Ember data is like unified data grabby structure-y boy, which just sort of like, it's a bit like inertia-y, I think. Adapters and serializers, so that's going to be for JS. Hello. The provider component pattern. I'm going to cover a lot of ground, so let's get learning. This seems to be where the meat and potatoes are of this. I kind of see where they've done it in 2 parts, because part 1's not very good, to be honest. So, now fetching real data from our server, little JSON file. Let's add a new feature, dedicated pages for each of our rentals. Ooh, exciting. While adding these rental pages, you'll learn about routes with dynamic segments. Cool. That's a bit more routing, that's what we want. Links, dynamic the words. That's probably going to be, this I imagine is both going to be quite Railsy. And it's going to assume certain structures, I guess, but we'll see. Component tests, we're not writing any tests today. Accessing parameters from dynamic segments. Interesting. Sharing common setup code between tests, we're not going to be doing that either, because we ain't writing tests today. So, that ain't the thing we're doing. Routes to dynamic segments. So, it'd be great for our individual rental pages to be available through... Can I say something about Java and front-end technology? Java... and front-end technology. I don't do any Java, so yeah. So I'm not sure what I can say. Yeah, I don't write Java, basically. So I have a grand total of about 25 minutes to an hour in about 2009 with Java, so that's the extent of my knowledge of Java. JavaScript, yeah, I guess. So, routes of dynamic segments. Yeah, so it'd be great for our individual rental pages to be available through predictable URLs like rentals, grand or mansion. There we go, that's very straightforward. Also, since our page is dedicated to individual rentals, we can show more detailed information about each property on the page. It'd be also nice to be able to have a way to bookmark a rental property. That'd be nice. Can we bother to do that? We'll see. And share direct links to each individual rental listing so that our users can come back to these. Oh, bookmarks, they mean bookmark as in like in the browser. Ah, not like a functionality thing. Okay, all right. Well, sure. And share direct links to each individual rental listing so that our users can come back to these pages later on. One thing I know that Ember does that I do like is it makes use of URLs, and URLs are really good. They're storing like state of applications, stuff like that. URLs and params and stuff, like they're just really good for that. This thing of like saying, there's a time when, very brief time, I'm not sure when this died off, when people be like, no, my single page application has to always be on .com. We can't have anything after that. It's like, why? Why not? It's fine. Single page applications don't have to be a single page. It just has to... You're so much in the semantics of what you're doing, you've forgotten why you're doing it. So, yeah, anyway, what was I saying? Right, so, yeah, after browsing. First things first, we need to add a route to the new page. We're adding a rental route to the router. So we're going to just kind of copy and paste that and read it afterwards. So we're going to go router. It's there. Where's this? Does the order matter? I doubt it. Oops. Oops, wrong one. There you go. No! Hang on. There you go. No, I replaced it. I can't help but be stupid. This is my curse. Alright, so rental, path, rental. Okay, so that's very straightforward. Right, so if we go to API rental JSON, so we've got, let's just do this. No, go into this one. So let's just do that. Oops, no, we're going to do PW. No, we're going to do PWD. We're going to do F. There we go. So we go into rental. Just go into our JSON file. Just search for, not package JSON, you dick. JSON. Oh my god, there we go. Rentals JSON character. Right, so, and we're going to go back to, so how are we doing this? We've got rental ID, and over here. Oh, there's some magic there. So we've got type rental. No, yeah. Okay. Rentals, rental ID. How is it getting that? How is it getting that? So notice we're doing something a little different here. So using the default path of rental, we specified a custom path. Not only are we using a custom path, we're also passing in a rental ID, which is what we call a dynamic segment. Let's open that up to read later. When these routes are evaluated, the rental ID, we substitute with the ID of the individual rental property that we're trying to navigate to. Okay. So is it automatically... So are we, because we haven't got rental ID, right? So is rental just because we've done rental? You know? So we're just saying, you know, and it's just looking for the ID in the routing magic. We'll see how this goes. So now that we have the route in place, we can update our rental components that actually link to each of our detailed rental properties. So do route rental model, so link to rent. Hang on, route, yeah. So wait, so if it's saying link to at route, so that's what we did before. Rental, yeah. Model is rental, yes, that makes sense. Rental title, yes. And then it's just going to infer. It's just going to infer that it's going to. That's not. Let's just see it's working first. This is where these things get a bit headfucky because you've got this thing of let's get rid of that. So we've got this thing of let's just do rental HBS Yeah. Yeah, so this is where these things get a little bit head fucky with this sort of like more magical framework, is that you have to then start to get how certain more mysterious things work and whether or not it's even legitimate. So like the thing that Rails does is it assumes a bunch of and you can see them, but it assumes a bunch of predetermined routes, right? And it'll build out it'll pre-build a bunch of routes for you. So if you build a model and you call it like a resource, or say a resource, says easy. Say we got a resource called pages, right? It's going to assume you have a page, edit, index, destroy, create, all that kind of shit, standard CRUD actions. Plus, you can add any additional ones in. So you link it to a controller action, and then just say in the router, I'm hitting this action with this, right? And it just creates that. But it will infer all of those routes, and it will infer all the children of those routes if they have their. If it reads like the relationships inside there and also infer what those are as well. It's very clever, but also takes some time to get used to. So let's just have a look at this. We broke something. Did we save this? I don't think we did. Okay, so there's nothing on there. Rentals undefined. Okay. Rentals undefined, huh? So yeah. What are we doing with this? When did we import this? Is this even in my file? Yeah, we've got it. So, okay. So yeah, path route rental ID. Rental ID. So yeah, I've copied and pasted this, right? So that'll just work. So yeah, okay. So inside rental, we've put in link to route rental. So we're saying hit this, and then we're saying the model is rental. Okay. And we have a, let me just quickly, rental. Did we create a model for this? I'm pretty sure we did. Route. So we route for index. How do we, I can't remember how we did the, where did we put that? The shit for, is that in here? Yeah, it is. So, did they say to move that shit over? Okay. Weird. So yeah, link to route rental, model rental title. So that's magical. That's very magical. Since we know the linking to rental route we just created, we also know that the route requires dynamic segment. That's mean to pass in a model argument to the link to component can generate the appropriate URL for that model. Let's see this in action. See, our link to something isn't quite right yet, so we click them, it will say undefined. So okay, I should read ahead before making assumptions. Either way, this is still kind of like weird, I guess. Yeah, they're linking to rentals undefined. Yikes, because link to tries to use the ID property from our model in order to replace the dynamic segment and generate the URL. Because the ID inside here, so I go back to yeah, here. Let's just do, there we go. Yeah, so ID is the name, right? That's why it's not, I mean, is expecting ID to be a string, or when you say ID, just assume it's going to be an integer, right? But you, I don't know. Okay, so our model doesn't have an ID property. Oh my god. So link to component is going to be a finder and generate the URL. Oops. Thank you, fixed the problem. It turns out our data returned by a server actually does have an ID attribute on it. We can double check this by going there, and the ID is, oh, that's a picture. It does have an ID attribute on it, but it's the name, right? The ID is Grand Old Mansion, so they've named it weirdly, but that's fine. I'll just use title and then camel case it myself or something. I don't know. Oh, I mean, no, because you can get, you wouldn't do that anyway. You do ID as a number and then you get clashes otherwise. Yeah, so you wouldn't, I don't know, this is semantics, but you wouldn't ever do that, right? You'd just do an actual ID, like an integer, so they can't clash, right? And then you just either generate like a UID or you'd, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like you do UID or you create a, something from here, whatever, doesn't matter. Point is, right, if you look at the JSON data, we can see the ID is included right alongside the attributes key. So we've accessed the data. The only trouble is we're not including it in our model. Let's change our model hook in the index route so it includes the ID. Okay. Okay. So, oh, we're here already. So, this one. So go to here. Okay, I'm just going to do ID attributes. There we go. Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's just do that. I hate when it does this. Okay, do that. There we go. Okay. Oh wait, I don't need both, idiot. There we go. Okay. So this roots thing is like a, I mean it does say model hook, but yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's in roots, but it's a, do we have like a model folder as well? Hang on. App. Oh, dang it. App. Yeah, there's models as well. So, okay. So you've got a router file, but also like it's kind of a model. Is this the right place to put it? Right. So ID attributes. So yeah, we've got attributes. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, right? So we're not returning ID attributes. That's fine. Okay. Now that we've returned, include our model's ID, we should see the correct URLs to each rental property on our index page after refreshing the page. Let's have a look at that. Go back home. There we go. And it's found. Did I save this? Rentals undefined. Did I save that? Okay. And then that still says undefined. What? Let's just, it says build successful. Okay. We missed something from here. Nope, it's just that line and that line. So we're just doing ID. Yep. Yep. Okay. I mean, we don't. Let's just restart our little server, just see if that makes a difference. npm start. Let's see if this is slower than before. No, it's the same. We haven't really done anything actually. It'd be pretty bad if it slowed down even more so quickly. I hate this new Safari. It's so lame. Right, undefined still. Oh. Okay, so we do rentals. What are the names of one of these? If I do urban living. No, and that returns no information about what to do with that either. That's not very useful. Alright. So where are we going? Index, yeah. Wait. Is this because I've broken it? No, it's in rental. Let's just do. Hang on. It's because I've probably done something dumb. Although that should be setting. That should be setting. Yeah, I can't remember that. That should be setting. Okay, let's just do it like this. Let's do it properly, and then we'll go to here. Yeah, I know. So that's not going to magically fix it, though, is it? Yeah, it's still undefined. Huh. So, link to. Let's just make sure we've done this. Let's make sure we've done this. So we got into root. I'm going to put this on a separate screen. Hang on, just to save. So, rental. Wait, hang on. Where have we done this? Yeah, rental HBS. So we've got H3 rental title. Huh? Okay, so I'm going to look about here. Okay. What was I? Yeah, so index HBS. There we go. So we've got the rental. So. What? App components. Yeah, so that's what we've done. At root rental model rental title. And that didn't work. Let's read ahead. Let's see if they've. Let's go. Work in back. Some cars are doing sound really great. You can hear the outdoor sounds of cars being cars. I don't know what we can hear. I've not really tested my audio on this, so I haven't got a clue. Is that better? Is that worse? I don't know. I don't know. We're just playing it. So let's go back and we'll see why this is still not working. So what have we done here? So, you know, linking, blah, blah, blah. Something isn't quite right yet. Yeah, we've done that. Rental's undefined. We've done that bit. We've done this bit. So, ID. Updating the tests. Yes, now we clear the model's ID. We should see the correct. Which car is what? In the back? I've got no idea. It's just some car on the road. My door's open. So you might be able to hear the car's outdoors. So, right. I'm really confused here. So, we've got. ID attributes. So what we've done here is so we have. Let's just go back over it. So we are passing in attributes, and now we've added type. How much? What? So context. What we're doing? We are delving into the past, into the funny old year of 2011, 2012, and learning some Ember.js. And they've got a getting started thing, and I'm going through it and seeing how it is. So far, it's okay-ish, apart from recently where something just doesn't work and I'm trying to figure out why. So that's what you're up to speed. So right. Yeah. Yeah, so previously we're just looking at the attributes, now we're adding ID into it, so we're saying yeah, model, yeah, so there we go. We're adding the ID and attributes to model, returning the ID and type, and then ... attributes. Good. So we go back to index.js, ID, type, attributes. It's very confusing. So these look the same. That must be annoying someone out there, so I'll delete that. So yeah, component test. So I'm not doing a test because I'm not doing it. Accessing parameters. Now we're rental route. Let's finish up our rental page. Make our route actually do something. So we haven't been able to return anything besides undefined in here. Let's go back to, hang on, what are we doing? Boop. Go to reload, and we go here, and we're getting undefined, which is what I expected us to do, but I've saved all of these files. So this is definitely, that's saved. You actually want to learn JavaScript. I can't sit all day long and watch these boring tutorials. Well, the thing is, to learn JavaScript takes time. So I don't know what to tell you. There's a bunch of routes you can take. There's websites out there. One I really like is Exercism, which is a bunch of practical exercises. So exercism.org. It's really good. You can learn a bunch of languages. It's free. It's open source, and they have tutors as well. They're not there to like handhold you, but if you need help with stuff, they have tutors who volunteer, and I really like Exercism. That's how I learned Elixir, is via Exercism. So we do JavaScript. There we go, JavaScript. And then you've got a bunch of exercises, and you can join a track, and you can see what they're going to teach you. And then you can get help from people who know what they're doing. And also you get to see all of the things that people finished. So if we have this, it's about array analysis, and it'll teach you a bunch of stuff. And it's very nice, and also it's open source, and you should probably give them some money because it is all run by volunteers. So there's my answer to that question. So we're going to go to, rentals undefined still. That's really weird because there's no steps to this, and I don't know. Have I missed something obvious here? Because the problem makes it hard to, this is where it gets annoying, right? Because where this is magical, so if we go back a step, there we go. So we have the these routes of dynamic segments, right? So it'd be great for individual rental pages to be able, through a predictable URL, like the name of the the name of the thing in kebab case. But where this is like opinionated, I think we are passing something a bit ambiguous into this. So we're just saying, no worries. So we're saying this route rental path rentals rental ID. Okay. So this segment here is kind of weird, because it's like a magical route creation. So we're not tying this together in a very coherent way. So we just sort of have to put in what it tells you to put in a format that it wants you to, for it to return you the route that you expect, instead of being more explicit. Which is great if it works. But if it doesn't, you go like, well, why isn't this working? Which is where we're at. So if we go to router, and there we go, we've got, let's just do one of these, and there we go. Oops, get rid of that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so rentals, rental ID, and it just bees all weird. And we go back here. And we followed the thing, and it still says undefined for all of these. Undefined. So, and we've followed the link. So link to route rental. So this is again where it gets kind of, we've got the magic, and the magic's letting us down, is we've got a link to thing, and we're saying the route is rental. So that's going to infer that, because so we've got this available to us as route, which is kind of, because also, right, like it's getting root via its parent, right? So we're inside a component, we're in rental.hbs, and if we come into here, and rental is used on index, right? So index hbs, and then we're not passing anything into here, but we've got this here. So we've got, so this must be global, right? So we've got root about. This is saying, link me to the about root, right? So if I were to like duplicate this line and then be like, what is this? Rental. What's that going to do if I just duplicate that button? I did save that. What? Just do the word us. That's not doing anything. you know what I haven't done so far? I haven't checked my console, which is telling me absolutely nothing. Very, very annoying. So that's also telling me nothing. Whoa, that's annoying. So, right, welcome to Superman. So, right, let's just do this. That's in my component, so we're going to just get rid of that there. I'm going to put this outside, and then just do... Did I save that? I'm pretty sure I saved that. There you go. And we'll go back to about, and then nothing's... What? What's broken here? Something's broken here. What the hell? What the hell? Where's my shit? Where's all my shit? So... Hello? What? This is bizarre. Okay, so let's just restart, I guess. This is my opinion's changing rapidly of Ember. If we are literally doing super basic shit and I'm getting this weirded out by what the fudge is happening there. Right, so let's just delete this for a bit. Okay, right, and then we'll see if that does anything. It doesn't. Is this running on a different port or something? No, 4200 and index.hbs is not working. What? Let's get rid of that. Okay. Let's just quickly just see what else is going. So if I go into about.hbs and I'll be like, hello, and then we'll just do that. And then is something overlapping that part? No. I think something's buggered. I'm not sure what. And we're right at the beginning of a basics level tutorial, and it's just not doing the do. So that's very weird. So let's go back to, let's just undo some changes. So let's do rental HBS, and we'll get rid of this because this is one of the contentious things. Get rid of that. So we're gonna have no title anymore, and we'll just see if that does anything. It hasn't. App components rental. So that's just. Is there some like weird caching going on? So let's just make sure. But that shouldn't be, right? Oh, it is. What the fuck? Okay. What? That got cached? What the fudge? So that's okay. Well, I did take the pro advice of what else did I break here? Let's just do router. I left this. That's not broken. Index. I left that. That's exactly as it was. So yeah, if we go back home, getting over. I don't know what you mean by overlapped. It was cached, it turns out, which is really weird because it hasn't been open that long. Odd. Also, surely that should be something that auto load handles. For anyway, whatever. So, where were we? Index HBS. Let's put this back in. Put that back in. Get rid of all of this. So yeah, this is all the question we were answering before. Let's just go back to here. We go back to super rentals. Go back to home. That's not worked. What the hell? W. Does this auto reload just suck ass or something? Let's just have a look. Broccoli merge trees. Okay, don't know what that is. So let's just restart this. Okay, and that's not returning our shit anymore. Empty the cache again. Huh. This is not filling me with any... Let's just see if there's anything in here. Very much doubt it. Oh, there we go. So, must provide parameter rental ID to generate. Okay, right. So there's that error there. So we go back to rental, HBS, and then we've got this. There we go. Is that going to work still? So there's still that promise there. So if we just delete that again, this should start working again, I guess. It's not. Well, generate rental. You must provide param rental to generate. Okay, so if we go back to... Okay, that's just like, that's what they want us to have, right? Here. So if we do this, that's... What the... Huh? Well, yeah, so... Outlet for index jumbo link to, and handle promise rejection, error reject link to root rental. You must have, okay, that's that one. That's on index, sorry. So index, so that's the error it's given me, which is not that useful. So okay, fair enough. So that means that, yeah, it's very magical, isn't it? So is this still going to be, now that's working again. So, okay, what's happened here is, let's just Google this. Ember.js live caching. Live reload caching. Bizarre. So, yeah, basically what happened was the live reload had cached, and even when you restart, so if I close the browser and reopen it cached the previous one. So I was like, why isn't it working? At some point between me doing that and now it cached that page, so every time they changed it wasn't updating, so this, you know, whatever, this has nothing on it yet, but that's janky. That feels really, I think that might be a result of the old schoolness of this, because I remember, way back when you'd get like a load of these like very early live reload plugins and do fucky stuff like this where they cache themselves really easily. So, as standard, tripped up by a cache. But anyway, that is working now. So, but my concern here, right, with the root, let's go to the router, there we go, is, yeah, rental's rental ID, right? So let's just go back to here and we'll go to rental and we'll see what we've written here and figure out how we can reason about it, right? So if we look at, this is our root. We've got dynamic root and we said rental path rentals rental ID. Cool. So that's fine, right? There's no rental index, so we've got rentals, rental ID. Okay, cool. Rental ID is where I have umbrage, right? So what we've gone and done is we've also gotten this thing, which is a bit magical. We said link to root rental. We've not provided anything else, so we are going the assumption because, yeah, right. So we've just got a link. We applied nothing to this link component. We've just by virtue of, so basically our layout is we've got index. Index has, let's go over there. Index. I'm just trying to get our heads around the magic here, so let's see what's going on. So, yeah, index has, so each model as rental, right? So it's going through, looping through each one of the ones in our fake API and spitting out a link to rental, and then we've got our rental component inside there, which is here, right? So this is our rental component. Inside here, so inside rental, that's pretty, that's got a lot of shit in it, right? So at model, so we go into index. So this is where, again, it gets a bit weird, right? So we've got roots, we've got this index root file, right? This is where we're doing effectively kind of like a model thing. We're returning our fake API, okay? And then we're setting that to the model. And then we're just passing, we've started passing this ID into that model as well, right? So, and that's where we're getting this. So there we go. So we've got a little decorator thing saying grab models universal. So it's saying a model, which will be the model equaling the name of the view we're in. So the model will be index. Then we're saying model as rental. So we've renamed it, which is standard loop. And then we are setting this sort of local thing to rental. Okay, still with me? And then inside here, we're doing the same thing again. So we're doing root rental model rental. So root is global, and by virtue of it being a component of name inside, you see what I'm getting at here? Inside here, it's generating the correct. It's all quite ambiguous, I guess, and like, because yeah, if you do this in Rails, right? If you've got like if you've got a root called like articles, you can just do a link and say link to article, and it will just be article ID. So if you're, you know what I mean, it will infer that you need to get somewhere. But we're doing this inside a component, right? And inside, if you're in Rails, you have to be a little bit more explicit with that, because you have to know the scope of where you're at. You have to know the scope of where you're at to sort of, you know. So let's just, can we? Is there like a print thing? Ember.js print. No, is this actual printing? Okay, well, Ember.js console log console debugging log root transitions. No, we want to look at log view lookups, controllers, miscellaneous. Okay, we're going to carry on for now because I can't be bothered to delve into all of this on a stream. But I mean, so this is the thing when you get into these like hyper opinionated things, right? Where when they've got magic going on, you have to buy into the magic and kind of understand a little bit of it. So like the Rails one, I get. So you can go into a Rails application, you know, and well, let's do it. Let me show you. Let's just I'll show you what I mean. That's the way those things work. So if I just do doop. Okay, so if we go into cd dev, and then we're just going to do Rails new guy thing, and then we're going to do JES build, because absolutely fuck doing that. And then we're going to here, give it a second. Doop 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 boop 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 boo. I'm going to give it a set to build. There we go. And what do we call this? We call this guy thing, I think. Doop doop boop boop. There we go. 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 Hurry up. How's your day going? Good. Good. Right. So guy thing. Okay, and then we're just going to do Rails G scaffold story title string, right? So it's going to create a whole model of thing, and then if you just do Rails S. Whoop. And then we'll have our little Rails server, and if we go to run our migrations, and then go to /stories, there we go, stories, new story, and it will know to link all these things up. So if we go into let's just close this down. So if we go into just this, and then we just go into story, let's just do index.html. Yeah, so if we link here, so you link to show story, and we just pass it story, right? Because it has an entire model that we've created, and it's inferred that story means story ID because we're inside the index. It's confusing, but you get used to it. And if we do show, this will be our story show, and then it will say back to story, and it'll have a thing called stories path, right? So if we go and break this quickly, let's just go back to GP, and then we'll just, I think you can just do that, and it will just throw. It'll get annoyed at us, and it should. Oh, I forgot to run this out. Let's do that, and then we'll just do Rails S. Give it a sec. Boop. There we go, and it's going to moan at us. And if we go under here, in fact, actually, let's do a non-existent path instead. Let's do cheese, and then it's going to say there is no root called cheese. Did I save that? Yeah. New story. Oh, hang on. What are we doing here? Oh, where's the thing? Where's it? It's in roots. Roots. There we go. So, yeah, here we go. So it's going to pre-create all these paths for us, right? So okay, stories path, and it tells us what this is, right? And the new story path. So we can refer to new story path from anywhere, and it's always going to link us back to stories new, or edit story path. There's always going to be stories ID edit. Story path is going to be stories ID, right? So if I just do story, I can. So if I do this again, I just do go to here and I do story path. I kind of technically need to provide it a story, but it should be able to infer it. There we go. New story, create story, of course, whatever. There we go. Back to stories, and it's going to moan at us, right? Because we haven't set an ID, right? So we would need to pass an ID into there. But if we just did story, it's going to infer our ID, and it's just going to work. Because that, but you can understand the magic. So if we go, you know, and again, you have to get used to it. But we're not doing any of this, right? This is still magical, but there's still like an internal logic to it that's not too hard to get your head around. Whereas in here, so we're going to close. So inside here, oh, that's still running. There we go. Get rid of that. So yeah, these roots are much more magical than the Rails ones, and Rails ones are notoriously magical. So that doesn't fill me with confidence. Going into all saying I want to use a magical system for doing sort of stuff because I kind of like it, but this is really vague. And I guess it's like there's its own flavour how it wants you to do things. I get it. If there's a place where we could see roots, that'd be more useful. But let's carry on for now. So, yes, since we know we're linking to the rental route that we just created, we also know that this route requires a dynamic segment. Thus, you need to pass in a model argument so that a link to component can generate the appropriate URL for that model. Let's see this in action and go back to the browser and refresh the page. We see our links, but something isn't quite right. We've done this. Yeah, and that's where we passed in the ID into here. And then we wanted to write a test, but whatever. Accessing parameters and dynamic segments. Awesome, we're making such great progress. Now we have our rental route. Let's finish up our rental page. First thing to do is make our rental route actually do something. We added a route, but we haven't actually implemented it. So let's do this first by creating a route file. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to here. I'm going to go, yep, and then we're going to just grab the stuff out of here. What's this? Grab that. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go right, and then we're going to do routes, app, yeah, app. Where am I in this? Did I open this in the wrong guy? I think I've opened the wrong guy. I think I've opened this in the wrong thing. Whatever. So we're going to here. New. Okay, and then we do app, routes, and then it was rental.js, I think. Yeah. So yeah, so this is just a copy of what we've got inside index. So that answers that question from earlier, right? Like if we have two routes that use the same data, so rental is using the same data as rentals, right? So we're passing. So we've got. So hang on, let's just do this. So we've got. If we do go to index. Let's just do this. Index.js. Right. So here we go. So you see this? There's some formatting differences, but whatever, because that's me. But these files are the same. So we're pointing to. So yeah, we do need to duplicate. Well, I'll read some more in a minute, but I feel like we do need to duplicate. You know what I mean? So index and rental use the same information from the same endpoint, right? So, but we have two files because we've got index and rental. So when we say at model, it's referring to a root file called index.js, and we say the same about rental. The model is looking for a model called rental.js, which only works in the context of the rental root. Got it? Cool. But the point is, we can't then say, or can we say, just share the stuff from. Do you know what I mean? Or that's using the same crap. We're writing it twice, which is again not necessarily a problem, but something about this is not jiving with me. I wish I just skipped to part 2. This is where the interesting stuff is. So we notice the model hook and our rental is almost the same as our index route. There is one major difference between these two routes, and you can see a difference reflected here. Unlike the index route, we have I wasn't paying attention, I guess. We have params object being passed into our model hook. Where's that? Okay, there, model params. There we go. So that's going to be the root params. That's going to be like the ID and stuff, right? This is because we need to fetch our data from the API rentals ID.json endpoint, not the API rentals JSON endpoint. Okay, yeah, so we're passing in the parameter that we've passed into. But then this parameter is gathered magically, right? So this is passing in the ID that's going to use inside the API rentals JSON file. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Magic. This is because we need to fetch our data from this corresponding JSON file, not the API rentals JSON endpoint we're previously using. So it's almost the same endpoint. So yeah, we've got this. This is the difference. Rentals param rental ID. Yeah, okay. So params rental ID JSON. So you need to get used to some of the magic in the routing. So I'm going to have to read the routing doc to get an idea of how it works. And it's like a broken record, but I keep saying with the Rails stuff, these concepts didn't bed in quickly. And that's the learning curve with the conventions. You have to learn the conventions. And then what you get for that upfront thing of getting a little bit frustrated, because I think my experience of learning Rails was the first 6 or 7 hours, I fucking hated it. And then the tutorial I was watching, the rug got pulled out from under my feet, and then we removed 3/4 of the code, and they were like, and it sort of demonstrated really well. This is why the conventions are here, because you rewrite a load of extra code, the conventions were confusing, felt really magical, and then when it pulled away all the stuff you didn't need to write, you're like, okay, that's the reason why I buy into these conventions. Because if we go back to my Rails example, so we've just done we did a scaffold. What are we called? Guy thing. Thank you for remembering. Good. And then yeah, if we go into here and we go into, what do we call it before? Pages? Was it pages? Story. There we go. So we go into story. Stories control. So this is another thing. It will automatically pluralize stuff. But I go into my stories controller, and here we go. So inside my show, I have nothing. Inside my edit, I have nothing. And because I have a corresponding edit, so if I go into story, let's do story, there we go. This guy here, here's my story, right? And if I go into edit, there we go. And I've got form, story. So I do story, and it'll have a form called form. I have a file called form. So I follow the convention saying I have a thing inside my stories directory called form. So because it follows the convention, it knows to put this in here. So if I go back to my edit, go G previous, I can do render form story equals story. And that's it. Render is just like the way that Rails by default renders out partials. So I'm a partial called form. It knows to look for it because I'm inside the directory. I can specify a different one. Because I'm in here, I can just say form. It'll look locally. And then it's expecting a story, it's a local parameter, and I'm just passing in story. So there's some similarities here, but you can kind of make sense of this. But then when you go back to we go back into our controller to get this working, because we follow the convention. The show is empty and the edit is empty because you don't need to write anything, because of this thing, so before action, which says set story. So we're setting our story ID here, and we're saying on these actions, right? We're saying only on show, edit, update, and destroy. So we're setting the ID there. So it's not that magical. And then you go to create, you go story equals story new, object of the story, and we're passing in the story params as we did before. We go to the bottom, and under story params, we've got require story permit title. So all this is doing is saying if we had a field called like name or whatever, like description or whatever, we'd just put this in here and we just do like description if it existed, and then it knows to load it through and it will set that up as a parameter, right? It's actually pretty straightforward. And following this, so there's our private method of set story. So story find params ID. It's not that magical. And you can see, again, yeah, it's kind of magical, but you can see how it's constructed, and it kind of makes sense, which is why these can be empty, because everything that this needs, because you follow convention, is already getting passed to the edit. And if it needs something else, we give it to it. But if we don't, we can leave it, and it will work. Because that's how Rails does this thing, I guess. I personally love it, but I can see why it's not everyone's cup of tea. Anyway, the point is here, what we're doing is not quite as clear cut, or at least I don't understand how it's put together, right? or the magic is more hidden and less clear. That could be my bias or my experience with one similar thing talking, who knows. But right now it feels a little more magical than what I'm used to, and I'm okay with magic is kind of the point I'm trying to make. Very long way of saying that. So, give me 1 second, I'm going to go grab a drink. I have a double IPA from a company called Vocation Brewery, which I think is in Bristol. Where is it? If you're not from the UK, you won't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but it's fine. It's all good. Where is Hebden Bridge? Don't know where that is. So, not fizzy. Oh, double IPA. Fuck, that's strong. What is that? 7.6%. Jesus. We can go easy on that. It tastes good. It tastes like it's as strong as it is. Put it that way. So, yeah, so how's the dynamic segment? Okay, right, here we go. So now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. Maybe it's going to start telling us about how some magic works. So, okay, so we already know that the individual rental endpoints fetch a single rental object, yes, rather than an array of them, and that the root uses a rental ID dynamic segment to figure out which rental object we're trying to fetch from the server. Yes, ish. But how does the dynamic segment actually get to the fetch function? Well, we have to pass it into the function. Conveniently, we have access to the value of rental ID dynamic segment. How long did it take me to learn web dev? I don't know. I don't know really. So I only do it for work intermittently. I do other stuff. My main job is actually product design, but I do sometimes work as a developer as well. In my personal life, I do it. How much time has it been? It's been quite a while, 20 years probably. But to learn, so I've picked up over time, I guess. So I didn't sort of go to school, or I just learned things as I've gone through work and doing stuff. And I've worked for myself, and I've worked for companies, done all sorts over the years. So I think it depends on what you need to learn or what you want to learn. I think given when I learned, it was much easier to learn back then. There's much less to it. There was no idea of front end or back end. There was just developers. I think CSS barely. I think CSS existed when I started learning how to code. So I learned ActionScript first. I started doing Flash before I started doing web development. So which led me into web development actually, because I wanted to be an animator, and then that led me into making Flash websites, led me to making regular websites, and then Python and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I think now, if you want to learn front end or back end, because they're kind of two separate paths nowadays. There's some full stack people, but a while, I guess, and it depends on what you want to do. I think what I would say is, if for example you want to be a front end developer, I'd probably say maybe don't learn it in the context of like React. Just learn JavaScript first, and also learn that all the languages are kind of fundamentally the same, really. So don't be too tied to one language. You can like one more than the other, and all that. But the concepts of coding are universal, really. So I wouldn't worry too much about the language or the job you want to do. Just more, if you've got the fundamentals down for coding, then you can kind of do it. They're just tools, right? The languages are just tools to be used, and you just got to decide how you want to employ them. Again, this is why I'm looking at a very unpopular and old school library, because I'm not so hung up on the idea of using something that's fancy. I just want something that does things in the way that I want it to do it. So I don't need it to have, I have different sets of priorities, I guess. So, I don't know if I answered your question. So, right, so how does the dynamic segment actually get to the fetch function? We have to pass it to the function conveniently. So, there we go. That's that guy there. So, this is why we have a params argument, our model hook here. That's fine. It's being passed through this hook, and we use the params rental ID attribute to figure out what data you want to fetch. Other than those minor differences, though, the rest of the route is pretty much the same to what we had on our index route. You started basic web dev and started learning HTML and CSS, and you quit. I mean, you're going to have to write a lot of HTML. Yeah, and CSS, I guess. So, yeah. If you want to do web development, you kind of have to know HTML and CSS. If you do back-end, you'd have to know it as much, but you still have to touch it. You still have to know it, either way. Okay, so the rest of it is pretty much the same as what we had in our index route. So next we'll make the rental detailed component. Right, so here we go. This is the component generation stuff that Ember does. I think it's fine. So it's going to go off and generate as a component, but it's not going to generate as... It's going to do a test. Okay, right. That's interesting. So, yeah, so here we go. So it's saying create... This is quite a good CLI, I think. So it's saying it's create a detailed HBS underneath rental, skipping component rental detailed. So it's skipping making as a corresponding TypeScript file. So if I had added component class, it would have done that. It's saying do that, and it's created a test. So it'll always create a test, but it won't always create as JavaScript. That's weird. But whatever. We're just again, we ain't bought anything. We're just looking around. So, and that's exactly what that says. So rental detail is going to copy and paste this in. So we should. There we go. Let's go back into here. So we go to here and just do details. Let's just yield only templates are not allowed. No yield only. But okay, fine. I mean, I haven't. You gave it me, so Oh, cute! It says share on Twitter. Nice. Let's just go. Let's just change that to share on Elon's Nazi fuckhole shit website. There we go. I was going to do that. Right. So, okay. So if we go into here, it ain't working. Did I save this? I'm pretty sure I saved this. That's just it. Yeah, I saved it. Okay. Oh, we're not even. No, we're not. Okay, of course it's not. We're not spat out the thing. Yeah, rental detailed. Oh, okay. So. Huh? Oh yeah, that's the component. So we create a view for it, corresponding view. So similar to a rental component, except for the following differences. As soon as we write a test. I'm not writing a test. Adding a root template. So we're going to do that. So finally, let's add a rental template to actually invoke our rental detail. So yeah, again, like going back to the Rails thing, the generators in Rails can do more than this. So if I just I know I keep talking about Rails, but the thing is, this thing is so what are we calling this? App templates. What's it called? Apps templates rentals plural rental.hbs. So yeah, and that should start working now if I reload. But it's not. Whatever. Why isn't that working? It should work. I don't want to write a test. Has it cached it again? Is my console saying something? There we go. Oh, map. Okay, yeah, so fine. I'll just copy and paste it. I didn't put the map in, that's fine. So if I do detailed, and then map. Yeah, I don't have a map. Let's get rid of that, because I didn't put that in. There we go, that works. Boop. And share on Elon's Nazi fuckhole shit website. Lovely. Cool. That's going to really confuse anyone that turns up. So I'm going to be like, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to change this to, just going to share. There we go. We've had our fun. And then just do that as well. Just for the pedants in the room. There we go. Cool. Right, so we have that in place. So, not running tests. There we go. That all works. So what did we do previously? So what did it say to me again? It said rental detailed, rental this, rental. So that's fine. okay. Yeah, I need to go away and read the routing docs because I need to understand how that's working. Because it's so vague that it will probably be fine if you don't ask questions, just do basic routing, but then when do you do that? And also when things nest or when things don't need to be... This is a part of it was being a big backend as well, right? So I can already build a bunch of routes in Rails, right? And all I do is I just serve some JSON, right, to it. So, but then the point is, if I double up on routing, the routing better be good, right? Because the routing in Rails is really good. It has to be as good at least. Or I build my own little routing scenario, and I can probably use whatever router. Right. So in a scenario where I use something like Vue, right? I can use Nuxt. I've never used Nuxt actually. It'd be interesting to give it a try. But I have several ways where I can construct routes, right? You see what I'm saying here? With it being so magical and so vague, is it more confusing when it comes to more complex routing scenarios? Because, you know, I don't know. I have to spend more time with it. I think I don't think I'll answer my questions about Ember tonight. I'd need to actually go away and actually build a real thing, and I'm running out of time tonight. I need to stop soon. But yeah, I would. So far, the second part of this has been much less. It's more. We haven't done that much yet. We're still in like the first little chunk, and it's annoying me already a little bit. It's that routing is not my favourite, unless I can get my head around how it works. Because that's the thing, you trade off flexibility for reliability, right? So if it works in a certain way that you can understand, it always works that way. You'd have to think about it and maybe make some mistakes or do something inconsistent with someone else and turn it into spaghetti, or follow some vague rules that are unenforced inside your particular business or group of developers or whatever, or just within yourself. You're forced into it by a framework, right? Which is necessarily a bad thing, providing it gives you enough understanding what's going on, enough flexibility to achieve things you want to achieve. And when it is less flexible and more opinionated, you always will have to go outside of what its opinions are, right? Which is another thing, which is why I specifically like Rails over something like Laravel, is because the experience when you go beyond what Rails expects you to do is pretty seamless. Things just tend to work. Ruby as a language has a lot of inherent magic to the language as well. Like, it has a lot of metaprogramming. You can just spit up a load of stuff on the fly. It can generate loads of specific methods for the things that you need as you go, right? That's just how it does things. It's crazy. The point is, when you do that, you have a bunch of utility stuff built in, which means when you deconstruct as the parts of Rails you need to make use of those parts to go off the Rails, so as it were, it's pretty seamless, it's pretty good, and the experience is quite nice, and it's not that weird. If you do that inside Laravel, it kind of falls apart, and like there's so much crap bolted around Laravel to make the perception of magic work, that much more so than like a more capable. So PHP is not as capable a language as Ruby. So like, I mean, it is, but it's not as whatever. The point is, once you go past to do something it doesn't expect you, the whole system kind of falls apart. It's much more tenuous, right? Is my point. But this feels like more like the latter and the former, whatever, whichever way around it is. It feels more like Laravel than Rails in that way. So, service injection. Now, as promised, we'll now work on implementing the share button. To be honest, I can't be asked doing this. I might as read it. So, I mean, this ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. They need to update this shit because Twitter's gone, man. It's the American Fascist Party HQ over there. It's all anti-vaxxers and dickheads. If you are a Trump person, how does it feel getting kicked in the head by a horse? Does it hurt, or is it so sharp that you just sort of blank out and you go, oh fuck, oh this is all fine. Oh, vaccines don't work. The left wing's cause our problems, not the ruling class. Is that how that goes? I don't know. Anyway, sorry. So, when having a share button, you will learn about split attributes and the class attribute, the root service, Ember services versus global variables, mocking services in tests. We're not going to be doing any tests, as we say. So, in order to share on Twitter, we need to make use of the Twitter Web Intent API, which, let me see if this is fucking gone. it still says tweet. All they've done is they've just changed the header to have that shit ass logo. Will that still work? It does. It does. Yay! I've no idea if this even works. I've got no idea if this even works. Still, because this feels old. Right, so let's go back to here. We're not going to do this anyway. I'm not writing. I'm not doing this. We're just going to read it. We'll read through this and we'll move on to something else more interesting. So, Convenient API doesn't require us to procure any API keys. All we need to do is link to twitter.com intent tweet. This link will prompt us to compose a new tweet, or post as they're now called in the new shit world where Twitter's awful. I mean, it was awful before. It's a new brand of even more disturbing awful, you know, when people are like, well, I think black people should be in cages, and that just goes by, and that's fine. They just say stuff like that now, and it's okay with Elon Musk. Anyway, I'm going to turn off politics for a minute, and how much I hate Elon Musk. So, the API also supports us pre-populating the tweet with some text, hashtag suggestions, or even a link, through the use of special query params. It's almost as if it's an API of something. So, okay, we know that already. Let's forget that. Splat attributes and the class attribute. So this is what where they got it. This is a special Ember word, splat attributes. Of course, the users will still have the ability to edit the tweet. They can decide not to tweet at all. For that, probably makes sense to make our share button automatically share the current page's URL. Let's not do that. Splat attributes and the class attribute. Now we have a better understanding of the scope of this feature. Let's get to work and generate a share button component. So yeah, this is how you do it with a sidecar.js file. So if I did this, I'll just make it non-functional and just read the stuff. I don't even care. What? Oh, whatever. We didn't write anything. Yeah, so there's your splat attribute. This is what they call a splat attribute. So that dot attributes thing, which is kind of weird. So let's start with blah, blah. So copy that over. So we've got a button there. This share URL. Where are we getting that from? Is that inside our API? I don't even know. Should probably look actually, shouldn't I? API. Oops. API. Nope. So we're constructing that in some way. That's fine. Now we notice we added attributes to our A tag here. As you learned earlier when working on a map component, the order of attributes related to other attributes is significant. So yeah, if we have this at the beginning, it's going to come in first, and then everything else is fixed. If we put this at the end, it'll append it. So the order of it matters. Which is why I don't love this attributes thing. Yeah, we don't want our href targets or rel to be overridden by the invoker, so we specify them afterwards, right? So if we do these first for the attributes, this is just standard HTML attributes, right? So this allows them in first and then fixes these. If we put this down here, it will mean that they can be overridden. I don't know why you would use this in real life. I'd probably write the extra few lines of shit to just make it explicit, but okay. So I guess you can sort of allow arbitrary stuff through, so you can decide later on that it needs like a. But then, 9 times out of 10, the thing you'd arbitrarily add to a component is like a CSS class, and then just doing class and then, do you know what I mean? Or an ID, right? But then to just have ID in class, you write some sort of helper thing, right? That just spit them out into it's handlebars. You can do that. So I'd write like a handlebars helper type thing, and then just be like, just spit these out, and then I would never look at it again. I just include that on every file instead of this. So yeah, I'm going off this. I'm again too early to have a proper opinion, but we'll see. Oh, thank you very much. Have a good evening. Oh, hello there, Theo's Quest. What are you doing here? When did you join? This splat attribute thing. It's one of those things you go, this is kind of cute, but like, would I use it? I don't know. That's my take so far. This is kind of cute, but why would I do this? Were you here for the section on how it constructs roots, which is magical even if you like things like if it's magical even if you like Ruby stuff. I can't really tie it together in a way that can make sense, but I'm not familiar enough with it. It's magic. So what was I saying? So what happens to class attribute? It turns out class attribute is one of the exceptions. Okay, tell these component attributes are overridden. Dun dun dun. Well, all the HTML attributes follow the last right wins rule. The values for class attribute emerge. Oh, okay. That's fun. That's fun and magical. No, attributes is the cache pane. Oh god, yeah. Attributes is part of Ember. It's not a HBS thing. It's not a handlebars thing. It's an Ember thing. The routing is kind of mad. the routing is kind of mad. It's really, really. I'm going to go over it again because I'm not sure anyone else is here. I don't even care. So, right, let's just do this for your benefit. So, where were we? So, we've got. Let's just do this, and then we'll just do this again. Clear it out. It's faster. So, if I've got my root, right? So I've done a root and I've called it rental, and I've passed it rental ID, right? And then I've got a mock API, which is here, right? And that's ID. So I have to also make a root file for, I've got two, one for index and rental. So I pass it this, right? Standard sort of, whatever, fetch. And then I say, well, there you go, return, I'm just, ID attributes, putting it into model, and then ... attributes, which I don't really get. So, so then when you go in and I go into index.hbs, I have this, right? So I've got a little loop, and I've got this thing available globally called model, which isn't the model. That's the stuff in Ember.js, right? Which is inside roots. It's a root file called Ember.js. So it assumes that by saying model, it's going to assume the existence of a corresponding root file of the same name, right? So for model, each rental is rental, and then this is how they do components. So we've got a component, we're passing in a local variable with this little decorator saying at rental equals rental, right? So we're passing in the model as rental. So then we have our rental component, which has rental detail, but like, well, that's something previously I think in there, I can't remember. So we're doing that again. So if you do, is it rental? What was it? Rental image? No, where? Hang on. Index. Rental. No. Rental. Oh. Rental. Oh, there you go. So we've got template rental and we've got component rental. Not confusing. So yeah, inside our component rental, we've got this thing here. It says link to, so built-in component, and then we pass it root, so root's global, so root rental, passing it a model rental, right? And although this is a component that's embedded into, so if we go back into index, is where we use it, right? So this is the only place this exists. Through all of that, it infers the ID, in this case a string, of rental to build the roots. And if that was hard to follow, yes. So saying like, compared to the way Rails does it, which is seems magical, but actually is not, the sort of the layout or the sort of like the sort of like geography, I guess, of your file structure actually kind of makes sense, and it shows you quite explicitly how it's constructing those roots. And also they're quick, they're very you don't have to use any of it either if you don't want to. So if you've got a model called stories, and then if you've got a it's going to assume you're going to have like the standard collections, so it will name a root correspondingly if they exist. So then you can just say, well, story new. So then if you've got like a new whatever, like CRUD, like new action, you go, well, new story path, and then that just works everywhere and it just takes you the way you expect it to, right? which is kind of nice and easy. And if it's there, it assumes it's there, and also because some other stuff and conventions, it'll assume a load of other stuff. But actually, to see how the magic goes together is not actually that magical. It's just a bit magical, if that makes sense. The routing, and this is really weird. But Seslevis. Yeah. So where is this share URL coming from? Let's find out. So notice you added. So yeah. Okay. Right. So class will concatenate instead. That's useful. This, or is it? See, I'd probably want to be explicit again with this rather than just, again, magical. Because also, the thing with this attributes thing, which I keep bringing up, is if I have attributes on this, if I had like a span under here, and I add this in two places, they'll both inherit whatever I pass in. So if I have this component called share button, I use share button, I set a class, the anchor and the P will have the same class passed into them. And I haven't found a way yet to specify which element gets attributes added to it. And if you do have to do that, what is the point of attributes? You know what I mean? This is why I feel weird about it. Anyway. Yeah, so as the invokers, I mean, this is pretty standard stuff. You can add, again, it's very opinionated. I would probably not do any of this and make it much more explicit if I could. So, we also have a yield inside of our anchor tag, so we can customize the text for a link later when invoking share button component. There we go. Fine. So, accessing the current page URL. Let's look at the JavaScript class next. So, share button.js. We haven't built any of this. We're just reading it because I can't be bothered. Because it links to this absolute dumpster fire. So, pretty standard. Yep, fine. There's your URL. Yep, that's fine. All normal shit. Wait, hang on. Okay, I haven't set any of that yet. It's fine. Okay. Right, so we've got some almost magical... They've got these little @decorator things that we're seeing yet again, which... they're not explicit. So in here, right, so we've got stuff like this. So we say... We've got args. Where's our args coming in? Somewhere around here somewhere. Oh, some third args. Cool. So, right, yeah. So yeah, we've got this args hashtags. So what we're doing, search for set hashtags, right? So yeah, we're setting this to this, and this is this, but this isn't. But this pops into existence just by virtue of being here, right? So if I put this in without this, what would happen? I'm not even going to write it because I can't be asked to find out. I'll do this later, but. And this isn't explicit. I want to explicitly state that I've created hashtags. I don't want to just have it infer that it's there. Do you know what I mean? And if that's missing, and I've seen so far, it's really inconsistent with its error, with its like logging, right? So in its error reporting, it's a mixture of some stuff is in the console, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it throws up an entire page error, sometimes it doesn't. It's not great at that so far. And again, I'm building a nothingy thing, and it's already this part 2 is enlightening so far. So yeah, I don't love that. Not gonna lie, don't love that at all. Okay. So there's your. Why can't we test window location? Yeah, that's fine. Not reading the test stuff. Actually, this is probably really good. I might go back through this again and actually write all the tests, because this does look kind of interesting. But that ain't for now. So sounds something the Ember's router handle for, is it an Ember app? Yeah. Yeah, like I don't get it, because yeah, like the Rails thing, it infers a bunch of potential routes that again you can override or you can completely ignore, but the logic does make sense. So it says if you have a resource and it has these routes, then we're going to infer that if you put in a string that looks like this, we will take you to that place, right? Which is fine. If they don't exist, then that's fine. You just don't use them. And then if you want to call them something else, that's fine. You just override them in the router. It's actually not that magic when you know how it works, and it's not that complicated to get your head around. It takes a little while, but yeah, it's not that bad. It just means that you save a bit of time having to think about what the root's called, because there's the standardized format for addressing it, right? And if you have one nested, you just nest the names as well, and it carries on working. So if you've got a dependency on, like, you've got a book and a book has an author and you want to add the authors, you can just do, well, you do something like new book author root, right? Or book new author root, and it just works. Or you can make it something else. So it's one of them. So okay, let's read this. So tests. This is bad magic so far, right? Because I like Ruby magic because it's not that hard to get your head around what it is. It's just sensible. It does this, and the language is expressive enough, and there's enough DSLs written around it that you can make sense of what's actually going on fairly quickly. With the exception of Hotwire, which is why we're in the first place. And Hotwire truly is magical and a complete mess. So the root is responsible for handling navigation and maintaining the URL. For example, when you click on a link to component, you'll ask the router to execute a route transition. Normally the router is set up to update the browser's address bar whenever it transitions into a new route. That way your user will be able to use the browser's back button bookmark functionality. I mean, I do like that. I do like the fact it uses proper URLs. That's cool. And I need to read this. It's got a full section on routes, and apparently the documentation is really good, so I'm going to reserve some judgment. But so far, this is I don't know why I'd use this over anything else. The magic in the routing is already kind of really annoying me. I don't know why I've got some beer in my bonnet about it. The root, I'm going to read this later. Mocking services and tests. That looks pretty cool. If Mr. Fio's quest is still there, you won't like that though. But yeah, if you want to mock stuff, you can. It's pretty good. This just looks a lot like Jest, but I don't think it is. So Q unit, JS Q unit, Queenit. I've never used this. Yeah, I've not used this Q unit, but this is not completely homespun, so that's interesting. I don't know why I didn't use Jest. I'll just use Jest. Everyone knows Jest. So, boo. Okay. Okay, we're still on testing. I do on paper like how much they say, fucking test shit, bro. And you're like, alright, don't hurt me. And they're like, yeah. You gonna test stuff next time? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, give me lunch money. And they punch you in the stomach and like, that. I like that. Not everyone does. I know it's unusual. So, right. In this chapter, we'll work out removing some code duplication and root handlers by switching to using Ember data. I'm interested in this, to manage our data. We might just read this for a bit because I've skipped a little bit of a section about the services, but we'll see if it comes up. If it's reliant on this, then we won't. If it is, I'm not bothering to build that share button. I don't care. We can go back and do this later. I'm not asked. So that's pretty straightforward anyway, right? So in this chapter, look at removing some code duplication. Look the same, fine. So yeah, Ember data. My understanding of what Ember data is, based on very little information, is that it's like a unified. Instead of writing your own fetches, it's got a unified interface which sort of massages data into the shape it wants. So I think you provide it like a serializer, and you say what shape is it. If it's something like standard, like JSON, whatever API spec, whatever, then it'll just know what to do with it. Is my understanding. But then again, I know nothing about Ember, so who knows? Understanding things is not my forte. Or is it? I don't know. Who knows? Right, Ember data models, testing models. Yeah, so that was the thing getting me before, because we've got stuff that's effectively a model, and we're doing it in a root file. And like, surely the root file just sort of sets the nature of the routing for an individual subroute, or like, if you've got more routing concerns for the routes underneath the root of the root, you do that in there, and the model can just be a model. right? It's weird. So, but maybe they're going to tell us. So now that we added some features, time to do some cleanup again. A while back we added the rental route. Memory serves as well. We didn't do anything too fancy when you added that new route. We just copy pasted a lot the same object from the index route. We did indeed. They're very, very similar. And that kind of annoyed me. This duplication incurred a bit of technical debt for us. Hey! Making our code base hard to maintain in the long run. Hey! Look at that. For example, if we wanted to change something about how our data fetching logic worked, we had to change it in both the index and... This is what I'm talking about, bruh! If we change things in one place but forgot about the other spot, we can end up with some really subtle bugs in our app. Yikes. Yikes indeed. Chances are, as we keep working on this app, we will need to add more routes and fetch data from the server. Since all of our server's API endpoints follow the JSON API format, we'd have to keep copying this boilerplate for every single new route we have to the app, which is what my problem was. Okay, you've won me. Not back around. You've pleased me with those two paragraphs a little bit, Ember. Because React documentation is like, no, actually, to be fair, React documentation is as bad as that. It does say when things are stupid, not to do them, but people do them anyway. Which is why guardrails are good. I say this as someone who really likes Ruby. It's just lets you go, oh. Do you want to change what print does? Cool. Just change it. Make it something else. So, fortunately, we won't do any of that. As it turns out, there's a much better solution here. We can use Ember data. As its name implies, Ember data is a library that helps us manage data and application state in Ember applications. Okay. There's a lot to learn about Ember data. Let's start by uncovering features that help us with our immediate problem. Zoe says, that's Zoe. I like her hair. Oh, hey, I'm Zoe. I like how they've tilted her. So you can do this and drag her head around and be like, what are you doing? I told you not to. Anyway, so request manager is available starting with Ember Data 4.2 LTS. So Ember Data models. Ember Data is built around the idea of organizing apps data into model objects. These objects are spent user information. I mean, as a model. For example, the rental property data would have been working with would have been a good candidate. Enough talking while we give it a try. So import model attribute from Ember Data model. We're doing the same thing. Okay. Oh. So right, because we've inferred. So because it's in JSON API format, right? It's just we just set these little decorators into attribute, and it just if this is as good. This is some time saving shit. We don't have to do as much massage. Right, so what was this called again? Apps models rental. So we're going to do new, and then we're going to just do that, and then we're going to go app models rental.js. Okay. I like that. If this works, then okay, so we created a rental. I mean, it probably won't. We'll see. So here we created a rental model class that extends Ember Data's model superclass. When fetching the listing data from the server, each individual rental property is represented by the instance, also known as a record, of our rental model class. We use the attribute decorator to declare the attributes of a rental property. These attributes correspond directly to the attributes because it's attributes. So if we did like, okay, I get what you're putting down. These attributes correspond directly to the attributes data because I've heard this works not just you can get it to work with unusual. It's going to go into it. It says serializes later, right? So it's probably going to give us something in a different shape. It's probably going to go, here's how we do it like this, and we're going to give some data in a different shape, and then we'll get you to do it again, but in a more okay. I see where you're going with this. All right, you've pleased me a little bit more. And I do like how terse this is. This is nice. This is really nice. This is kind of lovely. So, right, use the attribute decorator to declare the attributes of rental properties. Attributes correspond directly to the attributes data expects in the server provide in its responses, which is here. So we've got bedrooms, description, etc. You can access these attributes as for an instance of rental model using a standard dot notation. Nice. Model title, model location, lat. There we go. Lovely. I do like that. That's very handlebarsy, which I like because I like handlebars. So, okay. So which use to uniquely identify. So there will always be an implicit ID attribute as well, which is used to uniquely identify the model object. Can be accessed using the model ID. Wait, hang on. No. We'll always an implicit ID attribute as well. So that's not that ID. So that's not as attribute. So that's not the ID. That's a different ID. Okay, well, they should have just called this slug, right? I don't know. Maybe they're doing this on purpose. This is not a. I have very mixed feelings about this tutorial. It's like half. Some things explain really very well. Some things go a little bit too slow. The tone's very good. Some of it's really explicit, really well written, and some of it is just plain old shit. And it's a weird choice of application to write to showcase what your platform's supposed to do, but whatever. So, okay, so uniquely identify the model object can be accessed using model ID. But if that lives separate from your, but then what if? Where does this come from? Right, like, because if I'm going to have a real API, it's going to have an ID for any record. It's mostly going to have an ID most of the time, right? Not all the time, but, you know, like, whatever. If I want to do stuff with it, I'm going to probably have some sort of unique identifier. So, does that clash? Let's just not ask these questions now. Let's just go with it. Model classes in Ember data are no different than the other classes we've worked on so far. In fact, they allow for a convenient place of adding custom behavior. We took advantage of this feature to move our type logic, which is a major source of unnecessary duplication in our root handler, into a getter on our model class. So that is that. Cool. Also, really here we'll go back to clean that up. Attributes declare the attribute decorator work with the auto track feature, which you learned about in the previous. Did we learn about this in the previous chapter? Auto. Oh, is that something I missed from here? Okay, we'll read about. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this offline. That bit I'm going to do offline. Right. So. Okay. Auto. Therefore, we're free to reference any model attribute or getter. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's just saying basically, if it's in that getter, then it's just going to automatically be available under this dot whatever. Right. This dot biscuits, and then we'll know when to invalidate its result. Oh no. Okay. All right. Okay. Testing models. We're going to skip this section. I'm so sorry. Loading models and routes. Okay. Odd. So, alright, now we have our model set up. It's time to refactor our root handlers to use Ember data and remove the duplication. So, okay. Let's just put this on a different screen so I can do this quickly. So, we're going to go into index.js, and then we're getting rid of everything. So, we are not using that model at all. Let's just. So, we're importing. Let's go like that. Service and query. We're getting rid of that. And then. We're getting rid of all of that. Right. Okay, and then we're going with at service store. Oh. Okay. And then that's going apparently. Let's just get rid of all of that. Okay, so at service, sorry, little service decorator store. And then we're going async model. So we're still doing the model in here. Model and then doing content. Content. Await. Oop. This store request. Now you start working. What the hell? Okay. Oh. There we go. Request. And then we're going to do query. And then rental. Why is that a new line? Because I'm done something wrong there. Okay, and then return content dot data. Okay, so okay, that's what it's told me to do. So if I do rental roots, that's fine. I'm gonna get rid of. So we're gonna. So get rid of that. Okay. Okay, and then what was I going to do? Let's get rid of all of this. Let's get rid of all of that. And then there we go, thank you. And then it's going to do import find record. I'm going to do at service store. And then what else is it asking me for? Okay, and then model, and then pass in params, and then we're going to go and do const, just the way you want content, yeah, equal, right, this store request. Okay, find record. Rental. Okay. Params rental underscore ID. Okay, and then yeah. Oops. Got to press enter. Return. Here we go. Return content dot data. What are you doing? Who are you? Where'd you come from? Weird. Okay, so we've done that. I'm still a little bit lost what's going on here at the minute, so let's just take this a bit slower. We get to the end of this chapter, and then I'm done, and I gotta go. So, alright, so the Ember data provides a store service which we inject into our root using the service store. That much I got. Declaration making the Ember store data was this store. Provides a request method for making fetch requests using request manager. As name implies, the request manager is request centric. Instead of answer, and this is the same guide earlier that was saying like, oh, here's how you press Control C. Instead of answering questions about specific records or types of records, we ask it about the status of a specific request. To initiate a request, we use the request method on the store, passing in a request object. The request object is created using builders from the Ember data store JSON API request. Specifically, Home Record Builder takes a model type of rental in our case. So, okay, find record rental params rental ID. So this is, yeah, it's us getting that root back. Okay. Okay, so yeah, params are 24 URL, arguments and build options for a single record. On the other hand, the query builder takes the model type as an argument and builds fetch options to query all records of that type. Okay, I need to read that again much slower. I just had a 8% beer, so I think my mind is slowly getting worse at passing information. So Ember data can do many things, and the default setup provides caching. Ember data's data store caches server response, allowing instant access to previous. Okay, that's nice. if the date... Wait, hang on. I've just gone, oh, that's nice, but then that sounds like a future foot gun. If it's like, oh, I just cached it. Okay, how do we invalidate that cache? If the data is already cached, you don't need to wait for the server to respond again. If not, the store fetches it for you. That sentence is having twins. We'll see how that actually pans out. I think I need to make something real with this, because right now this ain't doing it. But we will see. It's a lot of theory. This is going to work on our app. Let's run our test and find out. I'm not doing my tests at the same time. I'm going to go back in a moment. I'm back. So, the little fuckers. They built this into the test section. That's cute. Yeah, regression test. Looking at the failing message, the problem appears to be that the store went to the wrong URL when fetching the data from the server. So it's in 404. Specifically, when building a query rental request, there was... I've not put any tests in. I should have put tests in. Hubris. I'm sure it's fine. Or something. I don't know. So... Right. So in building the query rental request, the resulting URL request options was rental instead of the API rental was JSON. When building the fine record rental, grand old mansion request, what the URL the request option being. So let's just quickly look at what we get returned. Let's see what happens. It's fucked with a capital F, so that's fine. Let's see, what do we get in our console? We get something actionable. We do. So responded 404. Okay. Okay, that's not bad. Let's go back home. that gonna work? No. Index 404 get raised. Okay, so rentals has shat itself. That's fine. We need a test to tell us that. Stupid tet. I'm joking. I'll test it fine. So. Okay. So. Okay, the request option is rentals Grandel Mansion instead of API rentals Grandel Mansion.json. Okay, right, so it's just 8 the string, right, instead of the reference. That's fine. So, how do we teach Ember data to fetch from the correct location? But how's so we have to teach Ember data to fetch data from the correct location, but how does Ember data know how to fetch data from our server in the first place? Working with request builders and handlers. Let's start customizing the things that didn't work for us by default. Specifically, our resource URLs have an extra API namespace prefix. Our resource URLs have a JSON extension at the end. Got weird deja vu then. The first thing we need to add to our builder respects configurable default host and or namespace. And the namespace prefix happens to be pretty common across Ember apps. So Ember data provides a global config mechanism for host and namespace. Typically you want to add this to either a store file or API or app file. I probably would you'd probably put it in your is there just a file? Wait, is that your actual store? No. Okay, so app.js. So yeah, we would just do set build config URL and we'll do that. Namespace API, fine. So looking for Grandel Mansion instead of API rental. Okay, so there we go. And then it's got a prefix. So in the store file, would that be inside the model file? You do that normally, so you set it per store, but we're setting it globally. So this is probably going to be useful in most scenarios, to be honest. But either way, adding the JSON extension is a bit less common as it doesn't have because yeah, you wouldn't have .json because it's not going to be files, right? So you wouldn't have to do that. Makes sense. So. And JSON extension is a bit less common. It doesn't have declarative configure API of its own, because why would it? Makes sense. So we could just modify request options directly in place of use, but that would be a bit messy. Instead, let's create a handler to do this for us. So we're just going to go and copy that. So we're going to go to handlers. We don't have one. Do we have one? Nope. So we're going to just do that, and then that, and then we're going to go w app. What was it again? App utils. Ooh, app utils handlers.js. Is that the right place? App utils handlers.js. Okay. Can't say file. Parent directory does not exist. Okay, so we're just going to do. Hang on. App utils. Right, so now we do that. Oops, we do this, and then we just go back. There we go. Right, so okie dokie. As you can so JSON suffix handler request context next const request. So pretty simple. Oh. Okay, fine. You don't have to do this very often. This is kind of annoying. So app services. So if we just do okay, app services. No. Okay. Just app services. Yeah. And then we're just going to do this. App services request hyphen manager.js. Is that it? Request manager, that's right. Notice how we're using the JSON suffix handler created earlier. Uses the fetch handler, okay. Okay, so, alright. And then we're using import service from... Okay, service request manager. Okay, I get that. Fine. So we're in store. Wait, where are we? Yeah. So if we just do, I can just do this. App. What is it again? No, app services. Store. Is it just store? Store.js. Oh wait. Oh, I've definitely been drinking. Store. Okay. Services. Oh, hang on. I need to make a directory. What am I doing here? Yeah, I'm definitely drunk. So let's just go and do this. So let's copy that, and then we're just going to go, and then we're going to do this. And do right, and do app services. I've made a direct. Oh, whatever. Start.js. Oh no! RF. App. Oh, let's do this. RF. App. Services. Start.js. There we go. Right. Let's just do that again. There we go. Right. So okay. So with our new Ember data configuration in place, all the tests should pass again, and then we will see if this works. So let's go into here, and it does. So I think it should do like a little bit of. It's gone through a lot very quickly there. So let's see how it. I'm going to go after this little section. So I hasn't explained it very well. I need to read it. So okay, we're gonna provide. So what are we up to? We've got what are some things we got? We've got provider converts. Oh, we're right at the end. But anyway, I need to go. So let's do a speed recap, a speed cap of how we feel about this so far. So I did this at the end of the last section. Oh, hello. Yeah, so mixed, very, very mixed feelings so far. Like, there's a few things that I know they're trying to get your feet wet. I'd rather watch. So here's the problem, right? I'd rather watch like a video. This feels like a thing where you could probably do a video tutorial of it, right? The thing with Ember is where it's not at all popular, and I'm someone who really likes Ruby on Rails, which is considered unpopular. Rails is much less not unpopular as you would think, right? It's actually pretty healthy. It's just not. It doesn't get all the tabloid inches, you know, but there's a lot of people using it. So if I want to go and find a tutorial in various forms on how to get started with Rails and learn the basics, I have a plethora of options. Not as many as I would with, like, you know, there's not as many as would be like React or whatever, but there's still enough, right? And I have a variety of choices and resources to use. Right now, because Ember's not very popular, it feels like I don't have any secondary resources to get a different view on this information and how to do it, which is fine. But that means you're going to have to do a lot more reading to get yourself oriented, because eventually I read the Rails guide. The Rails guides are not pretty well written, they're quite badly written, to be honest. The Rails docs are kind of all over the place. It's designed to be a book that's read cover to cover, and it's documentation for a fucking web framework. So that's one big problem with Rails and the way their documentation works. But however, inside that book, if you take it for what it is at face value, it's extremely comprehensive, right? If you want to know something, it is in there. It 100% is in there. Is it in a format you'd like? Not necessarily, but you can always refer back to it. It's not written much like a reference, but you can still use it like a reference. I personally feel the guy's in a complete rewrite, but that's me. It's a big undertaking. It's a big product. But anyway, the point is, I have alternative ways to get this information. So I've got a little vertical slice of what Ember is supposed to do. It's curated because it has to be. It's not a small system. It's pretty big. But also some of the things they've chosen don't cover enough of the areas. Their choice of tutorial, I think, is kind of bad. And some of the things they gloss over and the whys of why you're doing it are not explained very well. Like the entire routing section, my biggest concern right now is the routing, whatever we call it. And my problem with it is it's too magical and they've done zero to contextualize how that's working. So I need to go now and read, and the same with what I've just done with the Ember.js stuff. Again, I've had a few beers. It's the end of the evening. It's 9:15 at night. I get it. However, we've done a bunch of stuff, and it all works. So I've copied and pasted, and I've followed. And again, I've not read as well as I could have done, which is on me. However, it doesn't do enough to explain how any of it works. And on the face of it, the idea of it sounds pretty good. How declarative it is, if you can feed it an API of a certain shape, most of the stuff I'll be spitting out would be in that shape anyway. So it'd be a case of setting a single flag inside the app.js environment file thing, and then just saying it points at this endpoint and here's what I want to pull from it, and then it just gets shunted into the views like that. That actually sounds really good. However, I don't think that I said however a lot. I don't think it would necessarily work like that in practice, because there's a lack of maturity in this magic, I think, and this is very early. I could be wrong, but to get any deeper, I'm going to have to read a lot, I think. And am I going to read that much? Am I so compelled by what this is providing me to want to read more about it, to reap the benefits of which I'm currently not convinced, versus doing like Astro or something? And Astro is a pretty no-brainer, pretty sensible, very fast, very familiar, but still less opinionated. So how much of that, again, it's not opinionation is good, opinionation is bad. That's a bit of an oversimplified way of looking at it, right? Like, how much do you want to give up in exchange for what are you getting in terms of what you give up, right? If you're not being explicit and writing everything yourself, what are you gaining in return? What you should be gaining is velocity, right? And again, I don't know anywhere enough to say whether that's true or not yet with this, which is my concern, because I feel like if that is, especially now, right, where you've got a hard sell, and they're saying, well, React does this, you have some old school shit. The thing with Rails, which makes it still quite, and if you know, because they do a bad job of advertising this, if you understand properly what it brings to the table, it's a very compelling argument for Rails to this day, right? And I know it sounds a bit like I'm indoctrinated, but it's that fast, guys. It really is. To get stuff built it's been so many times, and it's also so sprawling, and everything is in service of you getting your work done with the least drama possible in ways that are really robust. And if this can do that with a bit more learning, then that is something hugely appealing, because I've lost count of the times in Rails where I've been like, is that it? That can't be it. And then you wait for the sting in the tail, but the sting never comes. You know? Like, if you want to set, they've got little things like, they've got a built-in attribute store, which just saves something in a JSON array, or like a JSON blob, I guess, next to a record. It's a one-liner, and you set the getters for it. You're done. You've got an option, a setting system, right? Or if you do things like, I would like to have, I don't know. I'm sorry, I think I'm drunk. The point is, I can't just sit and do examples. The point is, like, yeah, you need to know what you're getting in return, and this isn't done a good enough job of demonstrating what I get in return for all of this lack of familiarity, and also you're still writing a lot of JavaScript, right? Which again, it's a JavaScript framework. Of course, you can write a lot of JavaScript. The point is, like, where it treads this weird line of being quite vanilla, but also the magic's very magic, right? And Rails magic is different because Ruby is magical. So it kind of has to be by virtue of being part of that language. So it doesn't feel as much of a diversion away from what the language does itself. There's quite a natural extension of what that language is supposed to be like in the first place. You have to be into Ruby to get what I mean by that. But it doesn't offend you. I saw a thing on the Y Combinator thing. What's it called again? Definitely drunk. Where someone's like, when it comes to Ruby magic, it offends. Someone's sort of like, it offends me less. But these are the things that would absolutely drive me insane anywhere else. But because it's in Ruby, it kind of gets a pass. And like metaprogramming, stuff like that in Ruby feels very, very natural, so you don't get angry at it. Or things like object orientation in Ruby is very nice, very seamless, very natural, so you don't get angry at it. You give it a pass because you like the language, right? And the language wants to be like that. This is JavaScript. JavaScript doesn't want to do any of these things, so you have to batter it into shape to do these things. So then you get more obscure magic, right? It's a very long way of saying I'm not sure if I like it. So let's just look at these segments quickly. We'll give it in 5 minutes. I'm going to go. So rooted dynamic segments. I fucking hated this section. This was annoying as hell. This annoyed the shit out of me. Didn't do the test. All of this section was actually really annoying. I don't like the routing so far. Again, I don't understand it, but if I understood it, I'm not sure if I'd like it anymore, but we'll find out. I need to read. There's a document here. I need to read this, and I will read this, but I'm not sure how much more I'm going to read. Class attributes, so class attributes, so split attributes is that ... attribute thing, which means you can pass in arbitrary attributes and they get inserted in line. I'm not convinced on its utility, but they seem to really like this. I'm not sure how much time this really saves versus the sort of potential footguns of it. There's nothing massive, really, with this. Class behaves differently, and you can just always pass in class and always concatenate together the things that you've defined locally plus what you've passed in. So that's nice. It's a nice little utility thing. Root service, so all the root stuff is, I still don't, Ember data is kind of interesting on the face of it. I'm not convinced it's that good in practice, but again, I'll have to build a real thing to know, am I committed enough to this to bother doing that? I'm not sure. I didn't get as far as adapters and serializers. I probably should have done. So, where's that section? Adapters. Where is the adapters? Adapt. Siri. The words adapter and serializer do not make their way into here. I know that's a thing. Chapter 12 I hadn't done. Input component, that's interesting. Provider components. Okay, this is where they are in the search. This looks like it's going to be quite meaty. Input, name, okay. Ooh. I'll input this update query. I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's on the face of it. So yeah, so I think my parting thing is section 2 has made me like this less, and I don't think I was really sold on any part of it before, to be honest with you. So I think I'm probably going to shelve this for a bit. I would probably come back and build a little tiny project with it and see how that goes. There's something there that's kind of interesting, but I think it would be... I find it hard to believe there's not something newer that's done this better. And again, going back to the Rails argument, is the thing that everyone misses from the Rails argument in terms of being Railsy is the brevity of Rails. The degree of Rails' magic is the thing that makes it kind of special. You can have things that have a lot of the conventions of Rails, but not all of them. And for some of them, it's fine. You need a few more to make it as fast as it is. So even like I used Laravel for quite a few years, on and off though. I like Laravel, I think it's great, but I was never, within 6 weeks of learning Rails, I was faster than I ever was, having spent like 5 or 6 years on and off using Laravel. And that tells you everything you need to know. Right, and that one's directly related to the other, and that tells you everything you need to know about it. And it's not just the appeal factor, there's actually something to it where it is a little bit more opinionated, and they've eased off on some of those opinions, which makes it slower. This feels like the opinions are there, but I'm not sure how well they serve the system. There's some real devil in the detail there, right? So if you get a film that's good and a film that's not as good, but they have the same subject matter, but the subject matter's good, you know, and it's two different directors' takes on the same idea, but one gets the substance and one doesn't. It's that level of shit, right? It's not just in the tech. It's a more broad strokes fucking thing. Anyway, I'm not sure I'll spend more time with Ember off the back of this. Oh, they've got more. So I think probably. I just think it might just be okay. I'm going to do one more session on this. I think I'm going to do something a bit more freeform. I'm going to do some reading beforehand. No promises. I might do another session on this, and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's not something I hold on fire. And if I did something like doing Nuxt, or I remember when I first used Astro, and Astro was like, "Oh my god, I love this." Very, very quickly, I was like, "I love this. I see the hype of this. Astro's phenomenal." But it doesn't save you from the mess, and I want to be saved from the mess. And if this doesn't save you from mess, then I don't want it, because everything else about it is either very pedestrian or, frankly, worse so far. So I'm going to spend maybe a little bit more time. I'm going to go off and read some shit and then decide what I'm going to do next. But I hope Zero Viewers, whoever turned up, had fun. I had fun. I drank 2 Guinnesses and a 7.6% beer, and I don't drink that much, so for me at the moment that's quite a lot. So take that thought, run with it, and that's the end of the stream, and goodbye.